If you are willing and able, will you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the parliamentarian please bring up the late acknowledgement?
Colorado State University acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and peoples.
This was also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other Native nations.
We recognize the indigenous peoples as original stewards of this land and all the relatives within it.
As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties nations have to their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed.
CSU is a land-grant institution, and we accept that our mission must encompass access to education and inclusion.
And significantly, that our founding came at a dire cost to Native nations and peoples whose land this university was built upon.
This acknowledgement is the education and inclusion we must practice in recognizing our institutional history, responsibility, and commitment.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Apey. Here. Senator Bilodeau.
Present.
Senator Brown. Senator Burge.
Present.
Senator Cardaceto Perez. Present. Senator Correa.
Present.
Senator Deason. Senator Epperson. Present. Senator Kramer. Senator Long. Senator May. Here. Senator Mumford. Senator Nybert. Chair Morgan. Present. Senator Pyfrom. Chair Ritter.
Present.
Senator Sandoval. Present. Senator Shepherd.
Present.
Senator Scher. Here. Senator Silverheart. Or Chair Silverheart. Senator Diem. Present. Officer Torsdoxy.
Present.
Senator Trout.
Present.
Chair Welch.
Present.
Senator Waller.
Present.
Senator Williamson. Present. Senator Sanchez. Here. Senator Nguyen.
Here.
Senator Wincher. Associate Senator Dorak. Associate Senator Quintana. Associate Senator Reeves. Associate Senator Tefera. Associate Senator Abdunabi.
Present.
Speaker of the Senate Hunter.
Present.
Speaker Pro Tempore Baum.
Present.
Parliamentarian Clark.
Present. Chair Silverheart is also here. Just like
Awesome.
I would now, Parliamentary Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, I motion to move the consent agenda to the top of confidence business.
Is there a second?
Second.
All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion is adopted. Will the parliamentarian please make that change? We will now move into gallery input. Is there any input from any gallery members?
Yeah, I've been chatting with Christian about doing a short presentation. Is that okay?
Yes, so we have a guest presentation in a few minutes here.
Yes, sorry, I'm
All
not
good.
sure what the procedure is. I wasn't sure if I was gallery.
Okay. And also, so for our gallery, if we could have you hop up to the row back here.
My bad, sorry.
Totally good, totally good. Is there any input from the gallery? Advisor Deardahl?
Hey all, great to see so many smiling faces here this evening. Just wanted to give people a quick update. Myself, I'm going to be out of the office April 14th to the 26th, and then Jesse would be out of the office April 13th through the 18th. So if you need anything from an advisor standpoint during those dates, Jen Johnson, the director of SLICE, is a great contact, or just try to get a hold of Jesse or myself ahead of time. And as always, our wonderful front desk staff is here to support you and help you with anything that you need. Keep up the great work. You all got this the rest of the semester. You're awesome. And thanks so much.
Is there any other input from our gallery members? Seeing none, we will move into our guest presentation. We have, oh, so sorry.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry. I would like to motion to add an item to the agenda, swearing in a new senators and associates in between gallery input and guest presentations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion is adopted. Will the parliamentarian please make that change? We will now move into the swearing in of officers, and with our budgetary affairs chair. Is there a member from the judicial branch that would be able to swear in? Is there a member from the judicial branch that would be able to swear in our budgetary affairs chair? Y'all can come up to the front over here. One second. Yeah. We'll wait here awkwardly. Chief Justice.
Charlie has a fun fact.
Charlie, Senator Williamson, would you want to share that fun fact right now?
Sure. Okay.
Oh my God. You
This
guys
is
have no.
transgender and sign language. That's all.
Very cool.
Sorry. Oh, no. Is that working? Wonderful. So you'll just repeat.
I state your name,
I, Alex Silverheart,
do solemnly
swear
to defend and uphold
the
rules and regulations
rules and regulations
set forth
set forth
by the Constitution
by the Constitution
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
and will rightfully perform
and will rightfully perform
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Now we will move into our guest presentation, dance marathon presentation.
It's been a very long time since I was in a Senate meeting. Brain is super scrambled, but really appreciate you popping out just 5 minutes.
Here, do you want to use this one?
Sure, whatever your preferences. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me crash for just a few minutes. My name is Chelsea, and I have the privilege of working with Children's Miracle Network hospitals, starting new dance marathon programs on college campuses. So out of curiosity, have any of you heard of Dance Marathon before? A few hands? Okay. Which campuses have you heard of it on? This one? Well, that means I'm doing my job right, because getting the word out this week. Any other campuses or just CSU for now? Okay, awesome. Well, happy to hear there already are folks who have heard that we're coming to campus. But just to share a little bit about Dance Marathon, it takes place on over 400 college campuses every single year, and 300,000 students participate, all united for one common goal: to change kids' health in their local communities and make a difference for hospitalized children in their communities. But of course, a movement of that many students at that many campuses doesn't get started overnight. It all began back in 1991 at Indiana University with a young lady called Jill Stewart. So Jill was 18 and she started her freshman year at Indiana University, excited to be there, but with pain in her heart because her best friend wasn't able to be there with her because Ryan White had passed away the previous summer from HIV/AIDS. He was one of the very first pediatric patients of the crisis. He got it from a bad blood transfusion. He was a hemophiliac. And unfortunately, because of the massive amounts of stigma, he wasn't even able to go to school. He was thrust into a whirlwind, and should Ryan White be able to sit with other kids in class? Should he be able to go to restaurants? Was such a hot button topic of the 80s that this poor kid just wanted to live his life and he wasn't able to. So Jill was the student body president at their high school. And so she brought in experts from the local children's hospital to educate folks and be like, hey, he's not going to give it to you by touching you. It's okay. So those kids went home and educated their parents, who in turn created a much more welcoming community for Ryan and kids just like him. So Ryan passed away from complications with HIV/AIDS when he was only 18 years old, the summer before he was planning to attend IU. And Jill knew that he loved to dance, and she wanted to do something special to remember him and to make a difference for the kids that they might still be able to save right there in Indiana. So she and a few friends from their hometown founded Indiana University Dance Marathon back in 1991. What was supposed to be a one-time event, raised about $11,000 and about 200 students showed up, all to support kids just like Ryan. Last year, Indiana University Dance Marathon raised over $3.5 million and 6,000 students, yeah, I see that face, and 6,000 students participated, dollar by dollar, student by student. Those students in Indiana not only inspired an entire campus, an entire country, an entire world with everything that they did for kids just like their friend Ryan, who wasn't able to be there with them. And that happened because a passionate executive board inspired an entire campus. And the reality is that that was able to happen because we know the impact that children's hospitals have on their communities. Out of curiosity, if you were treated at a children's hospital for any reason growing up, I'd love if you could raise your hand. Keep them up. If you know someone who is treated at a children's hospital for any reason, you could raise your hand. It could be a friend, sibling, neighbor, cousin. Look around. That is almost everyone in this room that's been impacted either directly or indirectly by a children's hospital in some capacity. And I can raise my hand too. My best friend died of cancer when I was in high school. And the last 4.5 years of her life were really challenging for everyone who loved her. In fact, there are still things that she went through that keep me up at night, candidly. But through all of the pain, all of the suffering, there was so many good moments, things that I look back on and I laugh and I smile, and that's because of her children's hospital. It's because of the staff, it's because of the programs. It's things like art therapy, music therapy, canine therapy, child life. Her favorite holiday was Halloween, and the last Halloween we had with her, they organized a ghost hunt for kids in the hospital so they could go and look at ghosts. None of those things are covered by insurance, not a single dime. Because let's face it, kids' healthcare is really underfunded. Children don't vote, they're not involved in policy discussions, and they get the short end of the stick as a result. But that doesn't mean that they don't need advocates. In fact, it means that they need them that much more. Because there are so many kids right here in Colorado, just like Ryan White, just like my friend Robin, and like some of you, who need help right now at Children's Hospital Colorado. Over 300,000 of them, in fact. And you can make a difference. And that's why I'm here, because Dance Marathon is coming to Colorado State University. So yeah, I love the enthusiasm, the snaps. So you can make a difference just for kids like Ryan, like Robin, like the 300,000 that are treated at Children's Colorado every single year. Because every single dime, every penny raised by college students stays right here in this community to help kids in this community. It doesn't go as far away as Utah or Indiana or San Diego, where I'm from. It stays right here. I know that the Rams have the power to unite for a common cause. Look, I've seen how you fill your Canvas Stadium for your football team, your basketball team, but even just thinking of Canvas Stadium for a second, imagine 41,000 screaming fans. Fill that stadium 7 times over, and that is still not the number of kids that are treated at Children's Colorado every single year. In fact, you'd have to fill it almost half over again to get that number. Dance Marathon is so much more than just a dance or a marathon. In fact, it's technically neither, so it's kind of a misnomer, but it's a year-long fundraising and awareness initiative that culminates in a multi-hour celebratory event, the Dance Marathon itself, where there's the option to dance, but even bad dancing saves lives. Y'all, I know I work for an organization called Dance Marathon, but they don't have me up on that stage for a reason. There's games, activities, entertainment. We'll invite folks from all over campus to share their talents and showcase their talents. And then the most special part of all is that the kids from the hospital are invited to come share their stories and be made to feel like rock stars for a day. Because some of them, this is the only chance they get all year to feel like a person instead of a patient. And let me tell you, there's no better feeling than a 6-year-old telling you that you are their hero. Seriously. At the end of all of that, the year is that moment when you find out as a student body how much you fundraised, the impact that you've made right at Children's Colorado. And we call it the ugly cry for a reason, because I have seen students make some great faces when they find out how much that they've raised. And it all stays right here to help kids you just met that day. So again, Dance Marathon is coming here to Colorado State University. And I've had the privilege of working with Christian very closely over the last few months, and Ali and Slice and a ton of other folks here at CSU to make so this can be an amazing program. So you're giving Indiana a run for their money in a couple of years, because I know the kind of students you are, the kind of leaders that you are, this group specifically, the kind of leaders that you are, and the kind of impact that you can make. So I'm here because, of course, these kinds of things don't happen on their own. They need a team. They need folks who want to make a difference. So I'm on campus this week looking for those students, looking for an executive board, looking for folks who want to be at the forefront of making this impact and change on campus. So if that sounds like you, if it sounds like anyone you know, I would love to talk to you more. The best way to find out more information I'll share in just a second. But before I let you get on with the rest of your meeting, I'd love you to go ahead and take out your phones. Just take a moment to feel how small and light it is in your hand. Your phone is about the size and weight of a premature baby. Yeah. My vision's not very good, but I saw some faces. Imagine the specialization of the equipment, the level of care, the expertise of doctors that it takes to keep a baby the size of your cell phone, not only alive, but thriving. You, college students, CSU Rams, can make that impact, because every kid deserves the chance to be a Ram. So with that, Christian, I'm not sure if you shared the video of Olivia.
I can circulate that.
Okay, fantastic. Well, one of our amazing miracle kiddos from Children's Colorado actually lives here in Fort Collins, and she has a message for all of you. So Christian's going to share that with you. Definitely recommend checking it out. Her name's Olivia. She's a ham. I'm hoping you'll all get to meet her at some point. But while your phones are out, the best way to stay in touch with us is going to be to follow us on Instagram, DM at CSU. So that's DM at CSU, AT@. All of the information about executive board applications, all of the information about how you can get involved with starting the movement, even if you're graduating. I know that you know folks who aren't, who are going to be perfect for this. So with that, I'll hand things back off to you, parliamentarian, and I'll get out of your hair. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Would you mind, could we open the floor to a few questions?
Of course, absolutely.
Awesome. If there's any questions, Senator Sandoval.
First off, I just wanted to apologize. I was not laughing at you.
You're okay.
Senator Silverheart had the best face when you mentioned the dollar amount.
Oh no, I saw it too. Don't worry. Don't worry. I saw it. I can only see about this far away, but that face was a picture. Let me tell you.
I don't think I've ever seen his mouth open that.
See, that's always one of my favorite parts of this presentation, is because people are like, college students, $3.5 million. What? People are always shook. But yeah, I would love to answer any questions you have, because I know that y'all are the folks with influence here at CSU, and I know that y'all can make this an amazing thing here on campus.
Yes.
Oh wait,
They both raised their placards.
All right. First placard, Senator Burge.
So you said this is across the country, many different universities. And so with it being the first year here at CSU, how long does it usually take for that to kind of gain traction? And then my second question is, what are you looking for in those executive board individuals, starting, I guess, as soon as the end of this year or next year?
Absolutely, those are great questions. So Dance Marathon itself, the first actual event, most likely won't take place until March or April of 2023. Because ultimately this is a year-round movement and we want to make sure that those student leaders have the entire year. So in addition to the amazing support from campus, we will also assign you a national advisor, which will be myself, and then you'll also have contact with the hospital. So you'll have 3 professional staff members supporting students at any given time. You're never going to be on your own. In addition to the entire network of college students, you are on a well-trodden path, let me tell you. Every success, every failure has been done before, and students are more than willing to share best practices and advice. So and as far as looking for, I hope that answers your question. And then as far as executive board applicants, anyone who's not graduating this semester or in the fall is eligible to apply. Whether you're a freshman, a sophomore, or a junior, the only prerequisite is to want to be a champion and change maker for kids' health right here in Colorado. Specifically, I'm looking for students who are enthusiastic, who take initiative. And I know that that's all of you, otherwise you wouldn't be here today. So ultimately, this is a leadership experience unlike any other. You get the opportunity to manage an organization that's run like a small business and have that national and local impact at the same time.
Senator Tarasetto.
Hi, so I guess what my question is it's not just a single event, correct? So how do the events look throughout the year? Like, what is it that, sorry, I can see you.
No, you're okay.
I'll just let you.
Sure. So the dance marathon itself is the capstone event, if you will. So once the dance marathon is over, I mean, of course, the hospital is accepting donations all year, but that's when the numbers go up, you know, how much you fundraise that year, and then it would all roll over to next year. As far as programming throughout the year, that looks different on every single campus. A lot of programs that I work with will have some kind of kickoff night in autumn. Slightly British here still. I've lived here since I was 12, but I'm still saying autumn. In the fall. In addition to some kind of, we'll call them miracle weeks, there'll be a week of engagement. So that's the week that most folks will register, start fundraising, and start spreading the word. Additionally, I have lots of programs who partner with other organizations throughout the year. One of my programs has a really great contact with their Pride Center, and they host a drag show every single year to not only highlight Dance Marathon, but also the journey that trans and gender youth needing gender affirming services at their hospital take. So it's a partnership with other areas of campus as well. So really, short answer, it's not a cookie cutter experience. We want to develop a dance marathon that is by Rams for Rams.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you so much. Can we get a round of applause for our presenter?
Yeah.
And I highly encourage all of you to bring this back to your constituencies. This sounds like a great event. Moving on in our agenda, we'll move to executive reports. Is there a member from the executive branch? President Dixon. Do you want this one?
My Jesus. That's all right. Hello, my friends. It's good to see you all. Thank you again to Chelsea. She just left. But huge thanks to Chelsea for being here. And if you all have any questions, feel free to route them to me as well. Like I said, we've had partnership conversations for the last couple of months in preparation for this moment. And we'd love to just get an interest from you all. We're thinking about having, yes, okay, there we go. Okay, so we've got 2 that are very interested. I'll mention that to her. Anyone else that's potentially interested? Aaron? Noah? Ben? All right, let me make sure I document this here. Aaron, was that a hand raised in the back? It was, okay. Oh, we've got Marcus, all right, amazing. Wonderful, and what we're thinking, Kimberly, I got you. I think we've got Noah, I got you as well. We should be all set. Sammy and Elizabeth. Amazing. And if I didn't get your name, I've got Charlie, Kimberly, Elijah, Ben, Noah, Sammy, Evan, Marcus, and Elizabeth. Is that right? And Aaron.
You just add the entire judicial branch.
All of judicial branch. Amazing.
Oh wait, it's for the dance marathon?
Oh, well, and this is, so a couple things. This is for, I guess. Yeah. Right. Perfect. In other words, you want to hear more, you want to be more of the part of the strategy building and potentially the executive board, or at least learn more about it. And there we go. We've got Alex Silverhart and all of judicial branch. Amazing. All right. So what we're thinking is end of April, we've got a budget of $3,500 in the executive branch dedicated to Philanthropy Week, which was a vision that Mary and I had early on. This kind of fell in our laps, this opportunity, and Chelsea reaching out and everything that's happened up until this point. We want to host a version of what you will see next year after we've raised the funds, after we've gone through the 12 months of fundraising. We want to have an event end of April, bring Chelsea back out to back to Fort Collins, back to our campus, bring staff members from the Children's Hospital of Colorado, all of our stakeholders, student organizations, fraternity and sorority life, STPS offices, and for us to have a kickoff event where we share the vision. We bring Olivia, who you'll see the video of. Did that link work out, Jeff?
Yeah, I just sent it.
Perfect. So the video in the chat of Olivia, hopefully she'll be there as well, and we can share the vision. We can have the formal call to action to our student body and say, let's see what we can do between now and next time this year. Let's see how much money we can raise. Sound good? So there's general interest in that. I'll confirm with her an exact date and time. But thanks again for hosting her here. Let's see, we're doing a budget reorganization currently. Very exciting stuff. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. My plan is to submit by Friday, which would mean that it's not on the floor for the 6th, right? Because you all have, tonight is the deadline for next week.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. I guess there's a slight possibility if you all have interest in coming back to that room, I'll be finalizing the numbers if you wanted to come endorse that bill, then we could get it on the floor for next week. It'll just be moving funds around in areas where we can't utilize them anymore. Homecoming float is an example. We've got $1,000 for a homecoming float. It's not homecoming time anymore, so we can't use that. We're going to move that into discretionary funds. And I'll explain some of the projects that I mentioned this year that we want to invest in by doing that. So keep an eye out for that. I'll be in the back room there in the conference room. If you are interested in endorsing, I would love that. Name Coach, I'm sure some of you might have heard of this. This is a program. Brandon Lowry's been a fierce advocate. Charlie, I know you've probably been interested or involved. It's a program that integrates with Canvas to allow name pronunciation, pronouns, number of other things, honorifics as well. It's an example of inclusivity in how we program our systems, which we have to program that in. That doesn't just exist, the inclusivity. And so I'm excited about that. If you have an endorsement to offer, if you know Brandon Lowry, definitely mention that to Brandon. And I think it went to UTFAB. Yeah, it was there this week. So yeah, amazing things there. Negotiating the ASCSU RMSMC contract currently. I've got about 15 to 20 amendments that I'm going to offer to RMSMC for this upcoming year. One of those being, how do we diversify the relationship between RMSMC and Senate, between RMSMC and executive and judicial? How do we start to tell the story of the whole organization, and their involvement is not just in the back of the gallery, 6:30 to whatever you all end, whether or not you have bills on the floor. Like, I want to start creating more of those opportunities. So let me know if you have thoughts. The Master Planning Committee met and discussed the Foothills campus. I don't know if you all know this, there's a bat research facility that's coming to CSU's Foothills campus. It's one of a kind. The National Institute of Health funded it entirely, and CSU gets to be the steward of that. It's one example of the millions of dollars of research that this institution does, and a lot of it happens at Foothills. So transportation is one question. That how do we get students there? They're hoping to expand to have the bus system run to Foothills campus. I've got a really amazing video that gives an overview of the projects and the research that's happening there, as well as some of the transportation efforts. I'll send that to you as well, Jackson.
Yeah,
that work, and we can circulate it. Let's see, meeting with the county commissioner tomorrow, Julie Shattuck McNally. If you all have any questions around county related things, namely public safety and transportation, those are kind of the two key areas for the county, let me know, and I can share it in my meeting tomorrow with her. April 14th, 5 to 6:30 p.m. We're doing a celebration for the mascots, poms, and cheer team as a part of our Celebrating Student Athletes initiative, especially those that are often under-recognized. Any of you all interested in potentially attending that event? And maybe could get a show of hands. Kimberly, there we go. Should I put your name down 2 or 3 times again?
4 just to be sure.
4 just to be sure, times 4. Jackson?
I would be interested.
Amazing, yes.
Maybe.
Anyone else? There you go, Aaron Marcus. All right, beautiful. Come find me if I didn't get your name on the list. Anyone else before I jump? Okay, perfect. U+2, an event coming up, a tie-dye event next Friday on the plaza. Tie-dye on behalf of the food security, or not food security efforts, sorry, the U+2 efforts that Benton Rossler is putting forward. So ask Benton if you have any other questions, but that'll be on the plaza. Tomorrow, as a part of Earth Month, they're passing out shower heads. Low flow shower heads and energy efficient light bulbs free on the plaza tomorrow. So you can stock up if you have interest. Stop by. Alex, I know you'll be stocking up.
You know me.
And if you haven't heard of Shift Foco, definitely join. How many of you have heard of this? Shift Foco. Yes, it's an amazing system. If you follow it to the T, you can directly lower your carbon footprint. It's an amazing program, and I would encourage you to join a team and compete for prizes, which Adam should be sharing more next week. Roundtable event with City Council, April 21st in the evening. Groom voucher system. How many of you have heard of Groom before? It's a Loveland-based transportation service, gets people from here to DIA. From now until the end of the year, we have a voucher code, ASCSU. Any student on campus can use it to get from CSU to the airport and back. No questions asked, no limit as of now. And we're going to make sure that that fund stays solvent for the next 2 months. So spread the word. And if we tap into the 2,000 in the first couple of weeks, we'll stock it again, and we'll make sure that we can continue the program. That was compliments of Sanskar Bias, Deputy Director of International Affairs. And then just the rebranded Grow the Buffs and the Unity Tailgate, April 22nd and 23rd. We're going to be serving a meal at the Hartshorn lot, hopefully. I'm just off of the bike path from 11 to 1. Hopefully the football coach is going to be able to join us. We're going to make the ask, as well as some of the football players. We'll be signing up folks for the run the next morning in support of the Cystic Fibrosis Philanthropy. And then the actual football game, which is the 23rd. It does align with CS Unity as well. So if you're doing CS Unity, totally respect that. If you're not, would welcome you to come to the tailgate, come tailgate with us and then attend the game as well. At the game, our hope is that that they'll be giving away, they've mentioned it, but we just need to work out the details, giving away 2 all expenses paid tickets to travel with the football team to their first away game, staying with the team, sitting fieldside, standing fieldside with the players. It should be an amazing experience. So if you go to the game, you have a chance to win. Any questions? That's right. Sorry, that was a long report.
What was that voucher code again?
ASCSU. ASCSU on Groom. If you have plans to travel in the next 2 months, you can jump on there, get both ways, it'll be covered. And if you run into any issues, please let me know, because I need to pass that along to their team.
Are there any questions?
And I can also write this up since it was a long report and send it to you all. Yes, okay.
Seeing none, thank you, Christian.
Thank you all.
Are there any other members from the executive branch? Seeing none, we can move into our judicial reports if there's members from the judicial branch that would like to present.
On behalf of Judicial Branch, wanted to mention that Aaron's position, Chief Justice, is now open. It's on Handshake and will be in the weekly email and should be on the website soon. And you can apply. It closes April 15th. And then we'll be doing interviews and selecting for next year's Chief Justice. So help us spread the word. And to you, Aaron.
Fire. We will now move into judicial reports.
I got a long
Chief
one.
Justice Aaron. I hear it's a long one.
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry to follow up all that kind of fun with maybe some not as fun news. It could be fun depending on what you think is fun. So last week, the Supreme Court received an opinion request pertaining to the votes of confidence that occurred last Wednesday. And we did vote in a 6, because we are missing a member, to 0 to hear it. And so just some stuff about that. I'm going to talk about it for a little bit. So bear with me. So during this time, the court was asked also to pause our bylaws to expedite the process due to the emergency of elections and the fact that we start voting next Monday. And the Supreme Court decided not to pause our bylaws for a few reasons. One of those being due to the unprecedentedness. I know y'all have heard that word so much, so I tried unparalleled, and I didn't really love it as much. So unprecedented situation. We wanted to take our time and be really thoughtful with this process and allow for like a really fair and equitable voices from everyone. And we also did not want to disclude briefs and annex voices in this space. So that is why we chose not to pass our bylaws. The Supreme Court was asked 7 questions, and we are choosing to hear 5 of those 7 questions. The questions asked of us were as follows. In counting the total number of votes, are abstentions included in the total? And you will be hearing this question. If so, should Senate leadership recount the existing vote of confidence for the Speaker of the Senate candidate?
We chose not to hear this question for a few reasons. One, due to the separation of powers, we didn't feel it was our job to tell Senate leadership how to act in their own space. And we did not believe that that should ever be something that sets a precedent for the judicial branch to do for Senate leadership. And we want to, it's up to the discussion of leadership, Senate leadership with what they do to see fit. What is the definition of a vote of confidence for Speaker of the Senate candidates? And we will be hearing this question. Given the definition of a vote of confidence, where proper parliamentary procedures, Robert's Rules of Order, followed during the discussion and debate portion of the vote of confidence for the Speaker of the Senate candidate to ensure that discussions were germane to the pending motion. We chose not to hear this due to this being directly outlined in the Constitution. So it's right there in the wording. It needs to pertain to parliamentary procedure. So we decided not to hear this because it's plain on paper. If a candidate fails the vote of confidence, are they considered an eligible candidate? And we will be hearing this question. If not, must an ineligible candidate be removed from the elections ballot? And we will be hearing this question. So I really wanted to really encourage y'all to write briefs, because every opinion we've had this year, we announce the opinion, we say our vote, and someone comes up and they're really upset about the decision that we made, but they didn't submit a brief. So I want to encourage briefs, because that's how we know y'all's side. I mean, you can come up and talk to me and I will straight up tell you I cannot talk to you about this case unless you write as a brief. They're how you share what side you want. It could be 2 sentences, y'all. It can literally be like, I want you to vote this way, and then 2 sentences of why. So it's not like this huge case briefs. If you're in political science, I'm sure you'll have done a case brief. So just wanted to really highly encourage those, and we will be taking case briefs, or briefs until Monday, April 4th at 5 p.m. So please email them to the Supreme Court email if you have one. So that's that. I can open up for questions if y'all would like after I finish all the other stuff. But Branch Wars, we had a great time tonight. Thank you so much to Elena for putting that together. And there will be another one, same time, same place. Exec and Senate 1, so front desk. Let's get y'all in there, and let's continue all the fun with that. Okay, I think that's all I have. Does anyone? Yep. Okay.
Point of information.
Yes.
Who won the branch award today?
Exec and Senate tied. I know.
I'm sorry, I wasn't there.
Senator Carsado.
When will you guys give us, I guess, the results, the verdict?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, okay.
Senator Shepherd.
Will the list of questions be made available? Where can we find that?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure yet, because it won't make the weekly email. I don't, if you have any ideas, please.
If you could send me a list of questions, I can send it in our group meeting.
I can absolutely do that. Would that work for y'all? Wonderful. I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Senator Correa.
Well, you said that you won't be listening to the question on whether the discussion was germane and within the confines of Constitution. In the legislative cabinet report, they said that it is acceptable according to them. Would you reconsider answering that question, or maybe not?
Probably not, because that would take a whole nother Supreme Court meeting, which would then set back this timeline even farther, because we need the entire Supreme Court here. And as much as I love having just 3 of us, and I need all of us, and I don't want to set back that process any further, as we're already coming up on I think we're making the deadline decision the day of voting ending.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, are there any other members of the judicial branch that would like to report? Elections Manager Blanco.
Thank you. All right. Hi, folks. Happy second week of campaigning. We're coming to a close here on one of the most important weeks of campaigning of this year. It's really exciting to see all the candidates out there. I hope you all had a chance to check out the President VP Town Hall. They had an intimate sit down with a CTV moderator, discuss their platform, and answered some pretty difficult questions about the organization and their vision for their administration. If you didn't get to watch it, it is on CTV's YouTube. And it's posted, and you can totally check that out. Same with the Speaker of the Senate debates that happened last night. It got a little spicy in parts, which was fun. They asked some really important questions, or sorry, they answered some really important questions, and that's also posted on CTV's YouTube. You just look up CTV 11, and then they'll pop up on there as well. So now the campaigning is kind of in full swing and voting is fast approaching. It's next Monday through Wednesday. We are running into a little bit of a predicament with voter engagement. The elections committee is foreseeing that we probably will have a pretty low voter turnout this year. And that is in part because of when we transitioned managers, we dropped the ball on advertisement. If you watch the President VP town hall, presidential candidate Rob Long really called us out for that, which I appreciate. So if we don't get, I keep hearing conversations about 10%. We need 10% of the students' body to vote. It's really important. Yes, the more votes, the better, absolutely. And historically, our voting ranges from like 12 to like 17% of the student body, which is really high nationally, is really high engagement. We need 10% of the student body to vote in order to ratify the Constitution. It has nothing to do with the candidates in the Constitution. So assuming one person votes and votes for both all races, then we'll have an administration and a Speaker of the Senate and senators for next year. However, if we do not get 10% of the vote for the Constitution, it will not be ratified. That means any ledges that were proposed and passed this year won't be adopted. And that includes the accommodations lex that came up here in Senate, was passed earlier this academic year. If we do not get 10% of the vote, that lex does not make it into the Constitution, and so we won't meet those accessibility standards. So it's really important that we get 10% of the student body to vote. So with that said, I need y'all's help with increasing voter engagement. So next Monday through Wednesday, April 4th through April 6th, ASCSU will be tabling on the plaza alongside the candidates, encouraging students to vote. We need volunteers to help table, and volunteers will table for 30-minute time slots, and they can table for as many as they want, and you can table with as many people as you would like. Volunteers will talk to students about ASCSU. We'll talk to students about the projects that they do within ASCSU and their roles within ASCSU. And they'll also hand out I voted stickers and freebie Forever Green shirts. It's a really great way to advertise the organization, advertise the projects you're working on, connect with constituents, and get people to actually vote. So I have a QR code that I will send around, and I'll pass around here for a sign-up sheet to help us table. The link was sent out to the tabling sign-up sheet in the weekly email, but I am technology challenged and I messed up with the link. So that link, if you click on it, takes you nowhere. This QR code was made by someone else, so this will actually take you to the sheet. I would really appreciate as many volunteers as we possibly can get. We need minimum 2 people to sign up for a time slot each of the 3 days. The more the merrier. If all the spaces are filled up on a time slot, with fingers crossed they get all filled up, we can add more people, absolutely. Again, voting is next Monday, starts at 8 a.m. Yeah, that'd be great. It starts at 8 a.m. and then it runs all the way through Wednesday till 4 p.m. Voting closes at 4. The elections committee will do our final hearings, and then we'll pick up the elections results. We'll head over to CTV and we'll get set up with them, and we'll do the elections results at 8:15 this same night. I'm excited to announce that Legislative Cabinet has helped us organize a watch party here in the Senate chambers. So next Wednesday, Senate will run till 8. Correct? Yeah. Okay, we'll run till 8 p.m. There will be a taco bar provided by the elections committee. So please grab some tacos. and come sit in the Senate chambers, and the candidates support systems are going to be invited here as well. So please encourage them to sit amongst y'all and get to know them. And then at 8:15, the live stream for CTV will come on, and then the elections results will be revealed. So really exciting stuff. Please sign up if you can. Let me know if you have any questions about the elections. And thank you for all of y'all's help. Thank you, I yield.
Thank you. We'll now move into our consent agenda. Is there any dissent to last week's minutes? Chair Amy.
Okay, so based solely on section 207 rules of the Senate, section C, any vote of the Any vote of the ASCSU Senate shall be considered as present voting membership, excluding abstentions, so long as quorum is present. I dissented to the minutes of last week. However, I want to make myself very clear that I am not dissenting to anything that happened at the Senate last week. I am purely dissenting that because abstentions were counted in the total number of votes and should not have been, not because of any concerns on the germaneness of topics discussed.
Thank you. Parliamentarian clerk.
Mr. Speaker, I move to motion to amend the minutes from March 23rd. More specifically, to amend the portion of the votes of confidence for Speaker of the Senate candidates, and to hold 30 minutes of discussion and debate before we vote on said motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
This motion has been seconded. We will now move into 30 minutes of discussion and debate on amending last week's minutes. Starting with the first race placard. Parliamentarian clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and evening Senate. I'm just going to give a pretty brief overview to what Legislative Cabinet did since Wednesday and since the events that transpired during last week's Senate session. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review the letter that was sent out in the weekly email, but if not, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up right now and just kind of go over a few key points. Okay. So on Friday, March 25th, the Legislative Cabinet held an emergency meeting to discuss the votes of confidence for Speaker of the Senate candidates. In attendance was also Chief Justice Freeman and Elections Manager Buhanko, and we really do appreciate y'all's time and in participating and providing us with some guidance on our next steps moving forward. We also held open our voting periods until Sunday at around 5 p.m. so that we could allow everyone in Legislative Cabinet who wasn't able to attend on Friday the opportunity to look through our meeting and our meeting recordings, and also just to have that opportunity to vote. Also, if anyone else is interested in access to that recording of that emergency cabinet meeting, it is currently unlisted on YouTube. But if you would like access to it, just let me know and I can provide you the link to that. But after holding that time, Legislative Cabinet voted for the following. So by a vote of 6-0 with 2 abstentions, we had determined that there were several procedural errors with regards to the vote of confidence on March 23rd. More specifically, in calculating the 1/3 threshold necessary to achieve a vote of confidence from the Senate. We had factored in the total number of senators present and members who abstained, rather than factoring in the total number of ballots received. We found that given that members who abstained were mostly candidates for the 2022 elections and abstained for the purposes of not having their vote counted inside of the total vote count, and that also that abstentions are not supposed to be factored in our form of parliamentary procedure. Chair Athey also added to this point in section 207 of the Constitution. Also, given that without factoring these abstentions, the results of candidate Correa and also by that extension, every other candidate for Speaker of the Senate could be placed under scrutiny and subject to appeal. And also given that there was a significant amount of uncertainty regarding whether Senate held the correct voting procedures during that session, along with the general confusion of the guidelines and the roles that Senate plays in holding votes of confidence for Speaker candidates. We have decided to entertain a recount of the votes right now. And so The process of holding that recount would be as follows. The first thing is that we're holding discussion and debate on this, and the primary motion made was to amend the minutes. And so we're going to hold that primary vote to determine whether we want to amend the minutes or not. This will give Senate basically the opportunity to decide whether or not we should go through with a revote. Once that motion passes, we will enter into, or if that motion passes, we would enter into a secondary recount, basically, where we would begin to provide additional context and everything like that. But yeah, all of this is just basically to say that there is uncertainty from last week, and we are entertaining the possibility of holding a recount. I would love to see y'all's thoughts on this. And the third point that we also added onto that letter, just before concluding my thoughts on the statement, was that there was extensive discussion and debate last week about candidate Correa's ad hominem statement made back in January. We had voted by 5-1 with 2 abstentions that this is a germane and an acceptable topic in considering the candidate's eligibility to run for Speaker of the Senate. But we also encourage the Senate to consider the consequences for members who have made ad hominem statements in the past, along with the consequences that we already have outlined in our governing documents. For example, Rule 2 and Rule 4 of the 51st Senate bylaws, which basically, actually, I'm not going to pull them up at the moment, but yeah, with that, I yield.
Are there any other points of discussion?
I have kind of information really quick on Clark's statement. I just want to clarify the process of what's happening right now, because I think I misunderstood. We're opening a discussion and debate, and then we're voting on if we're going to revote, and then will there be, did I hear that there was another discussion and debate on after that? Or is all of it just combined into one at the beginning?
Parliamentary clerk.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Athey. My thoughts were to hold discussion and debate now to determine whether we wanted to move forward with a recount or not, to move forward with amending the minutes. If that passes, we would basically go into a vote from there. And so there would be 2 votes, I suppose. One to determine whether we want to hold the recount, and then the second vote would be the actual recount that would be reflected within the last week's minutes.
Yes, and so because there are two votes, that's why I'm asking, are there 2 discussions, or are the discussions for both votes in the first discussion?
I would say that there would be 2 discussions. The first discussion would be on whether Senate wants to move forward with the recount or not. The second discussion, if that first motion passes, would be basically the discussion that we had last week about the candidates and their eligibility, and then we would move into that recount. Does that make sense, hopefully?
You can take it.
Point of some, what's the word? Are we recounting or revoting? Are we recounting the votes that were already cast last week, or are we talking about revoting with who is present here now? I think that's where some people are confused.
Yes, so we are recounting the votes. My apologies for not clarifying this earlier, but we were hoping for all candidates to abstain and anyone who wasn't present for last week's Senate session to also abstain if they do not feel comfortable with the information that they already possess about the candidates, given that they weren't there last week. And so we would be doing a recount primarily because we are amending the minutes from last week rather than reintroducing the vote to Senate, which would require a reintroduction of the candidates, which we are not also going to do tonight. And so, yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
So the current discussion right now is on amending the minutes from last week as they are. That's where we're at right now.
I still am in my point of information because I'm still confused. I'm hearing that we are voting on if we want to amend the minutes. And this first discussion is about that. And then the second discussion, if it's a recount, I don't know if it should be based on let's rehash the whole conversation of last week, or should it be based on should we recount? Do you see what I'm trying to ask?
I believe in the motion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the motion, it was that we would have discussion on what we are having discussion on amending the minutes. And then in the motion, there was a motion to move into a recount. Or is that correct? That we would just move into a recount?
Yes, that's correct. My apologies, because now I'm also quite confused as well.
So, so right now, we're discussing whether we want to amend and have a recount. And then following this discussion and debate, we would move into a recount. Chair Silverheart.
So based on what you said, people that were here during last week's session would vote and not the candidates and not anybody else. And are you asking them to vote the same way they did last session?
I would say that, well, the issue is that we cannot take away any senator's voting ability or restrict it or place a cap on it or conditions to it. And so in effect, any senator can vote. I also, though, would encourage that this vote remains only to the senators that were present last week in person and online.
Elections Manager Boyanko.
Point of information, were the yeses, nos, and abstention numbers recorded from last week?
Yes.
Can we recount those numbers rather than asking people to resubmit a vote?
I think we can definitely do that. In terms of details, I would actually entertain a 5-minute recess so that we can come together and have a discussion about this and make sure that we have our ducks in a row.
Seconded.
Can I amend it to 10 minutes? Because I foresee it being longer than 5.
Yes.
All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion is adopted. We will meet back here in 10 minutes. Please be back by 7:46.
Okay.
So recounting the,
I'm gonna try and
actually, let's back up.
mute the owl.
What's going on in y'all's heads right now?
Can you actually unmute the owl? I'm interested in this discussion.
Like what?
Senator Pyfrom, given the fact that we're currently in recess, I would suggest that we're just going to keep our microphone off for now. Apologies.
I'm over there.
Never mind, we're going to keep our microphone on.
Go over there.
Colorado.
Yeah, I vote.
Why not discuss?
Because like he could hear it no matter where y'all go unless I go.
Yeah. Why not
Let's
just
make sure-
discuss over here?
What's
Nothing
going
to
on in y'all's, what's the plan right now? What are the issues we're seeing?
So the idea, let's see, Kevin, do you want to go ahead?
Sure.
Sorry.
So the primary issue that we have right now is that last week, we don't have an accurate record of who voted and how that vote was conducted. And that was for several reasons. It's because one, we discarded the votes after the Senate adjourned.
Right. Which is normal practice.
Two, because some of them were abstentions. Some of them had voted for one candidate on one sheet of paper, and then some of them had voted for all three of them. There was just confusion about whether this was a vote of confidence or an election.
Yeah.
And if you had to vote for one person or all of them. And so all in all, it was absolutely procedurally a mess. And so we don't have that record. And so there's not even a clear idea of who voted and who didn't. And so
Okay, so there's no, like, there's not a clear tally of like, you know,
So-and-so
candidate
got
A
yay-
got
yays,
these many
nays, or
yeas,
abstains, yeah.
there's that, that's not a record we have.
No.
So as much as it would
Oh, hang
stink,
on, Mia. I totally can't hear you. 1 second. There you go. Speak again.
I feel like as much as it would suck, I feel like the most equitable and ethical thing to
Can y'all
do
hear
would
me?
be to have everyone represent and vote
So here's my concern with that is that in the Constitution, it says the vote of confidence has to happen on the first week of campaigning.
Oh,
The fact that we would, if we were to redo the whole vote and stuff on the second week of campaigning, could be a reason why someone would appeal the
okay.
election.
That makes sense.
Something to add to. Yeah, Mia, what's up?
So the only reason why we're recounting the vote is just because of that reason why people thought we were voting for an actual speaker, because I got an idea that we were also not revoting, but recounting the votes just because there were two senators, including myself, that were absent from being able to vote like right before.
It's in addition to that, Mia. And so the primary reason was because we calculated abstentions secondarily because there was that general confusion as well.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. At first I heard that, I wouldn't be able to vote this round.
Right.
Correct, yeah. And so I know Ariana and I had a discussion earlier about whether or not it would be appropriate for senators who weren't here last week to vote this week. Is this, yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. I haven't prepped any of the speaker of the Senate candidates to come and do their presentations.
And neither did we.
Yeah. So if we revote, you have to put them on the spot, or you don't do presentations at all, and that's not fair.
Can we work backwards? Because we know who was here at the beginning of Senate. We know who.
How can we ask those who now how can we have a vote in front of others where they can't vote? That doesn't seem sensical. Maybe I'm incorrect, but that doesn't make sense.
Right. That's what we're trying to work. We're trying to work through like what is sensical, and that is it.
Right. Honestly, I mean, just kind of based on what I'm putting together, I realize this would be set up for a revote, but either I think we need to have just a roll call vote as it sits now, or it's got to be redone, because if we don't have accurate track, either Breckenridge.
Yeah, that makes sense. We have to do it as secret ballot though.
Yes.
It can't be roll call.
And that's how we have it set up right now, is secret ballot. So just one thing like right now is if we're having a conversation in front of the Zoom right here, I just think it's better if we have this conversation in front of the whole Senate.
Sure, that's more
Just because
transparent.
there's a lot of senators out, and I don't know. I just think it would be better if we do have the camera right here that we have in front of everyone.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay.
Before we go back, can we just talk about math so that I have my numbers in my head?
Yeah.
First? Sure. Because my point that I will bring up with them is potentially we can work backwards, at which point we know that there were some people that abstained. We have the amount of people that were there at the beginning of the day. And so is there a potential of us being able to work backwards? These people for sure, Elijah, Noah, and Charlie definitely all abstained, so we don't have to count them. Evan and Rithik obviously didn't vote. So that's 5 people out of that total. Mia wasn't there. I think some other people left.
It's
work backwards?
It's tough. It's like I understand the logic, and it was a secret ballot, so now we're like asking people to expose their vote.
We're not asking you to say what did you vote, just did you vote?
Okay.
That's it. I don't care what you voted. Just did you vote so that we have our full things. We're here to vote.
Okay, so could we ask first, like, basically, if you voted at all last week?
On the vote of confidence.
If you
submitted
submitted a
If you
vote,
submitted a vote last week, are you able to
Submitted a
ask that? And then if we could ask that.
I don't know if I should. It's secret ballot. It's
yeah. I'm like,
Okay.
what if we
Did you submit
But
a
here's the thing.
ballot? Because that's like
Yeah, it's a
nothing,
different
and then
question
everyone
from
who
how did
submitted a
you
ballot
vote?
can still
It's
submit a ballot.
did you vote to begin with?
Or we don't even have to, honestly, we don't even have to ask if you voted, we could just ask if you were present for it.
For the vote.
All right, here's how I see it. I don't think we should make any conditions on how people should vote because we're currently amending minutes, and whenever Senate amends minutes, it's the total vote of the Senate.
Yeah.
With anything else in a current session, I would base it on honor system and just say, you know, if you weren't here last week and if you didn't receive the presentation from the candidates, we would encourage you to abstain from this vote. In the same way that we would encourage candidates to abstain from voting, even though they have the ability to.
But no, because I don't trust half the candidates. I mean, half the people here. They may vote negatively against me, and even if I get one extra negative vote from a person who didn't vote last time, I fail.
He's done a pretty
I got 5 out of 15, possibly even if one person decides to be like, hey, no.
right, and a whole week has gone by, and people, you know, it was a pretty emotional conversation. So those emotions.
And that would technically be considered a whole new vote then.
Yeah.
Plus, one thing that we can do, I know I'm being biased here, you can call me out for it, but since there's already a precedent set that the Speaker of the Senate does not need to go to the vote of confidence, since that the guy, what's his name?
Blake
Alfred did run and win and was over here without the vote of confidence. We could take that precedent and nullify the vote since presentation has already been done by the candidates. We could nullify the votes and go forward with it.
You could, but the Supreme Court is hearing on whether vote of confidence is important to whether a candidate can run. So if you nullify the vote and nullify the vote for all 3 candidates, and then the Supreme Court comes out and says, oh no, vote of confidence is important, and you need it to be a valid candidate, then all 3 of y'all are disqualified no matter who won. I would encourage, have the Senate speak about it and get some viewpoints for transparency.
Maybe someone has like a great solution.
Yeah, and then I would encourage y'all to like tally the votes moving forward. We're in a pretty sticky sitch right now, but like with future votes, hopefully that's something we can do moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
The form they created is
it looks great.
Laid out.
Looks great.
Okay, so what do I say? Okay.
We haven't you haven't made a decision.
We need to open discussion and debate on what the fuck we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if you gave some context of where we're at right now and then ask for discussion.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure where we're at. If I can pass it to someone.
I think Kevin knows where we're at right now.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Why not?
If everyone can make it back to their chairs.
Thank you, Kevin.
After 10 minutes of discussion, I would now entertain a motion to enter 15 minutes of discussion and debate.
Seconded.
Actually, parliamentarian clerk.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to section 15 of our bylaws, I would entertain a motion to move into committee of the whole. This would dissolve the Senate for the purpose of discussing usually bills or resolutions, but I feel like this is pretty exigent considering everything. But it would just basically be an informal discussion until we really reach a solution point, and we would love everybody's input on that. And so motion to move into committee of the whole.
Is there a second? All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion is adopted. We will now move into committee as a whole. I'll yield to parliamentary clerk to define exactly what's next.
Absolutely. And I can pull it up here on the screen as well. But can everybody see that okay? Great.
Point of point of information, because we are discussing the candidate vote, would the candidate still stay in the room, or how would that work?
Currently, we're discussing amending the minutes of last week, so there's no candidates being discussed at this time.
My apologies, I was not here.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and read it off. Section 15 on committee of the whole, the Senate may move to dissolve itself into a committee of the whole with the 2/3 vote of the present body for the purpose of discussing bills and or resolutions. The committee of the whole shall be chaired through the same line of succession as the ASCSU Senate. The committee of the whole can move back into the Senate agenda with a 2/3 vote of the present body to rise from committee and report the committee's findings, a motion to rise and report. Any changes to bills and or resolutions and or minute amendments heard in the committee of the whole must be presented to the Senate body in the form of a committee report and adopted by the body. The committee report shall encompass changes made to all bills and or resolutions as a single motion made by the committee of the whole chairperson. The committee of the whole may be utilized on the second reading of the bill or resolution or during the first reading of a bill or resolution that's been expedited. Quorum shall be the same quorum for the Senate body, and the committee of the whole shall be granted the permission to utilize the services of the parliamentarian and the clerk of the Senate in order to execute business. Yield.
So the intention of this is because we, talking about this up over here, have not come to a solid conclusion on where to go next. And so we wanted the input of everyone as far as how we moved forward with this. So I would yield to, if I could yield to parliamentarian clerk again, just to kind of explain what we discussed just a few minutes ago.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The big issue that we didn't identify earlier on in this process was the matter of who is allowed to vote for this recount and who is not. Normally, of course, it would be the people who were here last week. However, we do not have the exact vote counts for who voted, who abstained, who voted in confidence, who didn't vote in confidence, because it was a secret ballot vote. And we only have the attendance list for the people who were present at the beginning of our Senate session last week. And so we don't have the exact names of who was present to vote. I yield to Senator Burge.
Thank you, Parliamentarian Clerk. Based on what you just said, we don't have the numbers, we don't have exact details. And for transparency's sake, I believe that it would probably be beneficial to recast votes completely. I do not agree with representing. I think that we've exhausted the discussion. Again, we had a very redundant conversation last week. And I think it would be best for one transparency's sake to revote. However, I don't believe we should present that.
I hold the floor and yield to Elections Manager Blanco.
Thank you, Parliamentarian Clark. I would highly discourage the Senate from re-voting on the vote of confidence. That is because in Article 8, Section 802E2, says the vote of confidence needs to happen on the first week of campaigning. If you re-vote this week on the second week of campaigning, it would give grounds for someone to appeal the election. I yield.
I've exhausted my yields, and so I yield.
Sorry, Burge.
So with that, I amend what I said. Do we happen to have the exact numbers at all?
I'll yield to parliamentarian clerk.
I have the names of those who attended on Zoom last week. And I also know that at the beginning of the session, we had 22 senators present. Other than that, that is pretty much it. We could look back at the recordings and try and look at the faces and see if, see who was there, see who wasn't. But that's the information that we have on hand.
So if I can remember correctly, on the recording last week, it would say the exact vote count because it was announced at the end of the voting session. All numbers were announced and finalized. That might be the most accurate way to go forward.
Correct. I'm going to clarify the details here. Last week, we had said of the 22 senators present, 14 voted for Evan, 11 voted for Nick, and 5 voted for Rithik. Sorry for not using more formal titles. However, 22 senators present, 14, 11, 5, right? We had counted and calculated that basically on 15 divided by 22, right? But what we realize now is that 22 was not reflective of the exact number of people that were here, nor was the exact number ballots that we received in total. And so,
Okay, thank you. I yield.
I will begin taking a speakers list now. But I could. Senator Pfeiffer.
Yeah, real quickly. And I'm gonna probably end up having to yield to Elections Manager Boyanko, but if the vote was appealed, and I'm looking at just kind of the back half of this, what would the process be, and where would it go? Is this something that goes just to the Supreme Court? Does this mean it's a revote of the student body? I guess I'm confused in how that process would go and how that would reflect on us as a whole.
Elections Manager Boyanko, would you like to answer that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Senator Frankham. If the election was appealed, it would go to the Supreme Court, and it would ultimately be the Supreme Court's decision whether to uphold the vote, throw out the vote, ask for us to do another election. Those are all possibilities of an appeal to the election's results. I yield.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for answering that. I'll yield back.
Chair Ritter.
Yeah, point of information. I was there for the entire session for all the presentations of all of the candidates, but I had left right before voting was being counted, so I wasn't able to participate in the voting. So I don't know what that means or changes or does for my end, because I was just looking at a text message between Chair Athey and Chair Morgan, and it was like exactly 9:31, and I had left like right before, or like 9:27. Since it was past time, I had gone ahead and exited the Zoom meeting, but I was there for the entire Senate session. I just wasn't, I was not able to participate in the voting. So I just wanted to give that information.
I think that kind of goes to our problem here, is that the 22 members that we have noted as present isn't exactly reflective of the final vote. So, and if anyone wants to expand on that, if there's room, or we can move to the next point of discussion. Senator Waller.
I'm not sure if this is entirely possible, but could we perhaps go around the room and basically those who voted state if they were here when the voting happened, or if they voted then?
Let's keep that in our minds. I think we should go through a few more points. I'm getting shaking heads from the Supreme Court. I'll yield to Chief Justice Aaron.
If it was a private vote, I believe that y'all can't share that information.
Yeah.
If it was like a secret ballot thing.
Point of information, though, it's just,
Yeah, we just say that we didn't vote.
Oh, okay, then, yeah, sorry, I thought you were like trying to give answers to a secret ballot, and I was like,
That sounds not good. Okay, I yield my time.
Thank you. Senator Tarasado.
I was essentially going to say the same thing, except with cross-referencing the attendance sheet that we had, just to make sure. That's essentially what I was going to say. Yeah. I yield.
Thank you. Senator Shepherd.
I think that since we don't have an accurate record of the way that people voted, just the appearance of an error should be enough grounds for us to probably hold a recount. And I understand the concerns about challenges to the election, but quite frankly, I don't see how that's the rest of the Senate body's problem when it was Senate's leadership's job to accurately write down and record the vote from last week. So I think we should just do a recount. And with that, I yield.
Senator Correa.
Do we know how many senators left after the roll call, that were on the roll call but left from the space?
Because we took roll call at the beginning of the meeting and we didn't take it right before the vote, we don't know that.
So would senators be okay with voluntarily saying if they left the space or not? For example, Chair Ritter left the space. Is there any other senator with voting rights here that left the space before voting could happen?
That's something I believe we would technically be able to ask, is if they were present at the time the vote was held. Yes. Does that answer your question?
Yes, as long as they would voluntarily say.
Yes. Senator Scherer.
I just wanted to say that there are also senators that voted last week that are not currently here. I also had an associate senator vote in my place. So like, it seems a little complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Senator Sandoval.
I mean, to kind of counter what was said about why is it this Senate body's problem if the votes were not counted properly, I'd say it's our problem because we are charged with the vote of confidence. And we as senators know that we need to be here during the entirety of the meeting because we have this is why, because we have these issues of less people voting than what was accounted for. Now, if y'all as the Senate leadership want to run roll call every single time we have a vote, then I would say with things of like, for example, asking the former speaker to step down, then that would be contested as well. So, you know, we know as senators what our job duty is. We know what we signed up for. We know that we have to stay here during the entire Senate session unless, you know, talking to the Senate leadership prior or saying, hey, I'm leaving, and we get marked accordingly. So I disagree. It is our problem.
And so if I could clarify, the reason why we're bringing this in front of everyone is because, one, our discussion was happening in front of the Zoom, and it just didn't feel very fair to have that discussion without the entire body present. Two, it absolutely, like, it was an error on our end as far as the procedure for the votes. But us as Senate leadership have tried to work this out, and we had a separate emergency session to try to work this out as well. And we're having a hard time coming to a conclusion. So that's another reason why we're opening up to the floor, is because we are trying to come to the best and most equitable decision that, and we want, I think the best way to go about that is opening up as a floor discussion. And with that, I'll take the next point of discussion. Senator May.
So just to be clear, there isn't an accurate record of how many yeses, nos, and abstentions there were. So there's no way to go back and just look at those and take out the abstained votes and recount them that way.
No, there's no record, and usually precedent for votes and secret ballot votes is just throwing them out after Senate meetings. And so that's the reason why we don't have an accurate record for that.
Okay, thanks. I yield.
Yeah. Senator Williamson.
So I guess kind of a clarification talking point. So looking at consequences of what we do or don't do. If this wasn't recounted or it stayed with the record as it was, then the Supreme Court hearings would just, that would happen in its timeline that it's been set out by Chief Justice. And correct me if I'm wrong, but then if it was thrown out or if it was approved, we found out like an hour before voting closes what happened. So because of the timeline of the Supreme Court, if we don't recount and adjust it, then I guess my question is, we would get like, what would happen if the vote would change, whether someone got confidence or not, and then we end up with an hour before they win? What happens if that candidate that no longer had confidence won the election? Yeah, I yield to you to answer my question.
So the Supreme Court can release an opinion on the vote of confidence. They cannot force anything to happen. So if they decide that a vote of confidence is necessary for a candidate to be a verified candidate to campaign. And you all decide to keep the vote of confidence as is, which is calculated incorrectly, which we've all addressed already. And if candidate Rithick Correa wins, his winning will be null and void, because the Supreme Court will release an opinion on what they think is right, what they know is right, what they determine is right for the vote of confidence, but they cannot force us to uphold that. Does that answer your question, Senator Williamson?
Yes, thank you. So, but if we revote, this violates the Constitution and the entire election could also be thrown out. So kind of either way, are we stuck with, we have to break some kind of rule and it jeopardizes things? Am I getting that correct? Because we either have to revote, which jeopardizes the Constitution, or we have to wait until we find out from the Supreme Court an hour before voting closes if the candidate is even able to run.
So could you yield to Elections Manager Boyanko?
I will yield to Elections Manager Boyanko.
Thank you. Some options that I am hearing and seeing and thinking about. Recounting the existing vote will take some creative thinking on how we can recount this vote because it wasn't accurately logged or tracked. That if we recount the existing vote will have minimal consequences. I cannot see too many consequences coming out of that. I mean, candidate Rithick Correa could run as a viable candidate for Speaker of the Senate. That's option one. Re-voting on the second week of campaigning is a procedure that's in violation of the Constitution and puts the elections as a whole in jeopardy, or the Speaker of the Senate elections in jeopardy, because you would have to my knowledge, redo the vote of confidence for every single candidate. If you also decide to re-vote the vote of confidence, the candidates are not prepared or have not been prepared to represent today, and that's something that we can discuss if that's the decision that's made. But they ideally would represent, would re-vote, would be in violation of the Constitution. Whoever wins, their winning could be appealed through the Supreme Court. And then the final option that I'm seeing is staying with the vote that is already in place, but calculated incorrectly, which would disqualify, or no, it wouldn't disqualify. Candidate Correa would not meet all of the standards that are set out in the Constitution as a candidate. We'd have to wait for the Supreme Court to decide. Based on that decision, candidate Correa would campaign for 2.5 weeks and spend up to $1,250 without even knowing if his campaign is viable. Those are the three options. There's consequences for each of them. I encourage you to do whichever one you feel does least amount of harm. Thank you. I yield.
Cool. Thanks. I was just gonna say thank you for laying that out. That was what I needed, is consequences and stuff like that laid out. So then I would say that I think it's really important that we need to recount because procedural errors happened, and I feel like not recounting feels dishonest on all of our part. And we need to get it as correct as possible. We all know things got messed up, but we need to try and rectify the situation as best we can. I yield.
Parliamentarian Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I guess this just came to mind for me. But given the fact that we had already calculated the 22 members that were present last week based on the beginning roll call, why don't we just limit the people who vote down to those 22 members that were present, given the fact that we had already calculated them from last week? To go through that process again and doing a recount would mean that you would have to recount the number of people that were present. Am I mistaken by that? I understand that it is kind of an affirmation and doing things wrong twice, which is a valid concern. I just wanted to lay that on the table. In addition, I also just wanted to inform everyone that we are in committee of the whole. And so informally, we can group up into a committee. We don't have to necessarily have a formal discussion about this like we would usually do in Senate. The only other limitation to that is that it wouldn't provide access to those 3 senators that are on Zoom currently.
Yeah.
But, you know, provided that we have that opportunity to hold space with that. I also know that Chief Justice Freeman, I saw that your placard was up. Did you want me to yield to you? Sure.
Okay, I got a few things. One, I really like what Jess says when she says you can do anything you want if someone doesn't challenge you. So I would have y'all hold that in your heads. The second thing is so we were just discussing this. There's nothing in the Constitution that says you can't pause it to keep this 1/3 on the first week of, sorry, I don't know the exact language, but that 1/3 of week. There's nothing that says y'all can't vote to pause that. So that's absolutely an option. And it also says that 1/3 vote has to be presented on the first week. It doesn't say that they have to receive a 1/3 vote on that same Senate session, just means they have to be presented. Just food for thought. I wanted to give y'all a little, maybe some wiggle room, so some stress isn't as high. I know it's a really difficult decision, and I like want to echo what Election Manager Boyenko said. Try to do the thing that does the least amount of harm. And I know y'all will, because y'all are awesome. Thank you.
Put information in just on what you just said. Can you quote obviously you can't quote it off of your head, you can go get the Constitution, but can you find that section that says that it's very specifically, it has to be presented?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so, quote, all candidates for Speaker of the Senate must be presented by the Elections Manager and at the Senate session during the first week of campaigning and chambered of the Senate, and receive individual vote of confidence for the candidacy by 1/3. It doesn't say that it has to be within that same Senate session, so that is absolutely up to interpretation. Normally, I would say ask the court, but with the position everyone's in, do with that what you will. Does that help? Does that answer your question? Thank you.
With that, the speaker has yielded it back to Parliamentarian Clark.
I yield, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Silverheart.
Alrighty, Chair. No, I'm kidding. I'm not. Okay, so hearing what I've heard, I would like to preface this with I was not at the Senate session last week. I was not at the legislative cabinet that discussed this. So I have a semi-different perspective than probably most of the people in this room. But from what I've heard, it sounds like a recount would be the best thing to do. And kind of going off of what Parliamentarian Clark said, and a little bit from Senator Williamson, it seems like we want the people that were there last week to vote. And I do understand that some people from last week are not here today, but kind of going along the similar lines of Senator Sandoval, we're senators, we sign up to be here. If we're not here, we can't vote. And I understood that they voted last week, but if they're not here, they don't get to vote this week, if that makes sense. They've kind of lost that privilege because they are not here in this moment right now. So if I were to go ahead and do something, I would say, let's have a secret ballot. And as whoever is handing out the ballots goes around, ask, were you here during that Senate session? And were you here during voting? And if so, they are given one. Because I do not think it is fair for me to vote as I was not there. We cannot restrict voting rights, but I think that would be the most equitable thing to do. Making candidates represent today when they're not ready, I don't think that's equitable. The election is very soon, so I think we need to make a decision as soon as possible. I know all 3 candidates are campaigning and spending money, so I think making a decision would be important, and I don't think pausing would be a good option. So, thank you. I yield my time.
And I think that's something to consider too, is that we can't necessarily limit the voting rights of members in the space, but like encouraging is something that could be considered if we go about a recount. Senator Correa. Senator Carasado Perez.
I yield a redundancy.
Senator Burge.
Hello. I'd like to make one last point. So from what we can remember from public voting knowledge, as said to the Senate, both the president and vice presidential candidates abstained in their own words to the Senate body. And
I also abstain.
Charlie also abstained. There may be a possibility. Also, I have a question. If we happen to have, did we take closing roll call last week?
No.
All right then. Then maybe we cannot calculate that. I think it'd be very hard to calculate a vote that we would have taken last week. We do know of 3 abstentions, but
Correction, it's 5 because neither of the candidates that have voting rights voted either.
all right. I yield.
Yeah, so that's one of the few things with the vote that we do know is we know the abstentions, which technically should not have been counted in the vote. But Senator Waller, your point of discussion.
Yeah, I agree with Chair Silverheart. And I think that for the special cases where a senator had their associate senator vote, I think if they were in communication with their associate senator about who they were going to vote for, then I think that would be okay to have them be able to cast their vote or essentially say that they were there.
Chair Athey.
I just want to respond to that quickly. I also agree with Senator Silverheart, Chair Silverheart. Thanks, good. However, the way that voting for senators and associates work is that senators don't when they leave or when they're not using their voting rights, they don't tell their associates how to vote. The associates get to vote entirely differently if they would like to, and so I don't know if that will work.
Okay, I apologize due to ignorance, and I yield my time.
Are there any other points of discussion or debate?
Yes.
Senator,
All right, a couple of points, just kind of running back to everything. Obviously, everyone does have the ability to vote as they choose. However, there are people who do take exams who are absent for, valid reasons. So asking that they not vote this time, I think is not necessarily fair. But it is, we're here, we're what happens today, I think should give at least the Supreme Court a valid second opinion to kind of bounce back to. This needs to be a recount. I realize it does open up challenges, but those are only challenges that could happen. And I think it is what it is. We need to kind of start over back calculating. It sounds like that's not possible at all. And then to use the 22 number, well, that just doesn't make math sense. So unfortunately, start over with the voting, and what happens is where I sit.
I'm gonna Speaker Pro Tem Bond, would you like to present this?
So looking over our records, we had 25 total present senators in general at the beginning of roll call. We did have a total of 17 paper ballots. We did have 3 Zoom votes. And as of right now, we do know for a fact that we had 3 total abstentions across the board. So if anything, we can work backwards from those numbers and then get the correct threshold needed.
I thought it was 22, right?
There was 22 voting members because the candidates Long and Elijah were present in chambers at the time.
Okay, so it's 22 voting members. Wait, were they both associate senators and senators? On that 22?
No.
Just senators.
Correct.
How many members were there on the roll call?
Total roll call, you mean?
Yeah.
Like everybody?
Everybody.
So that would be, give me 1 second. $32, which includes Senate leadership and associate senators.
Okay. Point of clarification. Were there 3 abstentions or 5?
So there'll be 2 forced abstentions because the 2 senators present are candidates. And then there's 3 total abstentions that casted the ballot. Does that make sense? Yield to Freeman.
I appreciate that, but y'all do not know that. And 100% honesty, you do not know that. So I do not want there to be like this false declaration of who voted with that. That's the point of a secret ballot. Sorry, thank you.
Chair Silver.
I just wanted to echo what Aaron said, or Chief Justice Freeman. We do not know, so we should stop referring to the numbers, please and thank you.
Chair Athey.
I'm just wondering very specifically about revoting versus recounting. Because I think that by recounting, we are effectively putting ourselves into the past of redoing what happened on Wednesday of last week. And by being in that past, I'm a sci-fi nerd. We are, the way that I see it is that we are only able to see the people that were there. We're only able to work with around the people that were there at that session because we aren't working in today, Wednesday, the 30th Senate. If we were, that would be breaking all of the rules that have been previously stated. And so we have to be working into the past of last week, the 23rd. Yeah, I yield.
And just to comment on that, I mean, we are amending last week's minutes. So we are technically working in the past, just towards last week's minutes. But yeah. And then I have Senator Trout.
Hi, y'all. So I'm trying to go frame by frame of the Zoom footage from last week, and it's hard. There's a lot of small little blobs, and the OWL camera isn't really good with picking up detail. So I think if we wanted to do an accurate recount, it would just be to ask members who were not here to abstain, as well as candidates who were here previously who abstained, and vote the same way you voted last time. And if you were not here, to simply abstain. I cannot tell you to abstain. That would be taking away your voting rights. But that would be something that would be highly recommended if we want it to be a count for count as best that we can within this space. Excuse me. With that, I yield to the chair.
I wouldn't trust that word, honestly.
Senator Williamson.
This can be a broader question. If we have the numbers of the papers that were counted during the vote, if that's what Brandon Pro Tempore Baum just did, were the numbers of papers at the time, is there a reason we can't just recount based on the numbers of papers we got? Because the paper would say if it had an abstention or not. The 2 abstentions that people were worried about weren't in the room, so there wasn't a piece of paper for them. So is there a reason we can't just go off of the pieces of paper? Is that what you were just telling us, Pro Temp? Was those numbers?
Yeah, I can yield to. I think that, yeah. Yeah, I'll yield to you.
Yeah, so just to confirm Chief Justice Freeman's suspicions with the paper ballots. I did, same as Senator Trout, go frame by frame and have counted 17 senators present in the chamber.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I just didn't know if we had found the numbers for specific papers. That was my question. Sorry, I yield.
Oh, good. Let's see. Senator Burge.
Apologies, everyone. I know I've spoken a lot tonight. I'm not necessarily proud of that. I would like to wrap up our first conversation on if we would like to amend the minutes. I believe that we are all in agreement that we would like to. And so I move to take a vote on that.
Order. That's information, sort of. We're in the committee of the whole right now. We aren't currently in the discussion of how to amend if we want to amend the minutes. We're in the discussion, we're in a committee of just discussing plans.
So then I would move back into Senate and then make a secondary motion to then vote on whether or not we would like to amend the minutes from last week.
Let's see. This motion has been made. Is there a second?
A lot of information. It isn't the motion to rise and report to leave committee of the whole.
Yes. Parliamentary clerk.
Technically, yes, it would be to rise up and produce a recommendation to the chair, and the Senate would adopt that by a 2/3 vote. And so in theory, Senator Burge could have made the recommendation to move into minutes, and that'd be acceptable. I also have concerns with my own interpretation of how that process is supposed to go. I think the whole discussions thing isn't necessarily needed. And so I would feel like it would be best that if we were to move out of committee of the whole, that we would move immediately into a recount and move on from there. I'll yield to elections manager.
Just some point of clarification, I guess. No, point of information. We have the number of butts and seats and squares in Zoom. Correct.
Yes.
We do not have the numbers for votes, yes, no, abstention.
We don't have no's.
You have yeses, you have abstentions, you don't have no's, and you don't have the number of people who did not submit a ballot. Correct.
So the way that the ballots were laid out is you just signified your vote for each candidate. Yes. So we only have the votes that each person wrote on those.
No. Yeah, you have yeses, you have abstentions, you don't have no. My worry here is parliamentary procedure. Because the whole reason we're here is because of we had hiccups with parliamentary procedure for the first vote. And so now I want to make sure that parliamentary procedure is in place and followed correctly so that there's no appeal or no grounds for an appeal.
Yeah.
Parliamentary clerk, do we have, can we recount if we do not have the no votes?
I believe so. And here's my argument for it is that we do have the paper ballots, and by some extension, that means that we can draw it down to who was there. That's going to take some more time to sit on. Sorry, about you.
So what I'm hearing is that we're unclear if we can even do a recount. And you have to make a decision tonight.
Yeah.
What options does Senate leadership have moving forward? Is this something that the Senate body wants to just throw out the option for recount? Ultimately, from a elections manager position, recount would be the absolute best outcome for us, because we would be in accordance with the Constitution. That's something you can all take into consideration, and at the end of the day, you vote and make decisions based on what you think is best for yourselves and your constituencies, most importantly. So recount, it sounds like, is not a viable option. Is that correct?
Parliamentary clerk, would you like to answer that? I think I just every option right now presented seems kind of sticky, as well as just I feel like we are going in circles, and it's there's no solid conclusion present, at least from my point of view and understanding right now. And yeah, parliamentarian clerk, if you have anything to add to that.
I would just say, given that we don't have certain information on who had voted and how they voted, because again, that was a secret ballot vote. The only solid information that we do have was who was present at the beginning of the session. And I feel like we should base who should probably vote, again, under the grounds that no senator can, we can't just remove voting rights, right? For one, everyone here has a right to vote exactly, if they're a senator, exactly the way that they want to, even if they weren't here and learned nothing, right? But we would encourage you to abstain. And I feel like the 22 members that were present at the beginning of this session, given that, you know, and we only know the information that these senators know, right? And I trust that the senators that were present and did submit a vote and did listen through the entire presentation should have that ability to vote, and should be based on that. Already then we narrow down the numbers. Already then we narrow down the entirety of our Senate body. And I have honestly no suspicion that anyone else would vote otherwise, given the totality of this, but I will yield back to you, elections manager.
So that sounds like re-voting rather than recounting. To me, we're asking people to resubmit a vote. To me, sounds like a revote. If revote is the avenue that the Senate wants to take, I would encourage you all to entertain the speaker candidates redoing their presentations, so that you are all most accurately informed on what you're, or rather who you're voting for, if you are to revote. I've spoken to one candidate who is willing and able. I'd have to speak to 2 more candidates to see if they're willing to able to present.
And so that would need to happen tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a decision has to be tonight.
Okay, so seeing as this is, is that everything you had? Okay, seeing as this is like the first solid direction, I have a speakers list here, but I would like to move the conversation directly to what was just discussed. So I'll start taking new members, starting with the first race pocket. Senator Correa.
First of all, a re-vote would definitely be a violation of the Constitution's timeline. Secondly, not all members present, out of the 22 members present, not all of them voted, some of them left, and I wouldn't want those 22, those members that left voting again, because it might sway in any direction.
Senator Waller.
Yeah, I'm with Senator Correa on that, in terms of a revote anyway, but I think, well, you know, we were talking about, is a recount even viable? But a big problem was we were trying to figure out whom exactly was there, which I think that problem could be narrowed down a lot if, like I said, we just went through the room and asked if you were there that night, you know, present during the vote, not at the beginning, but during the vote, and you voted. That could be narrowed down quite a bit just by doing that.
Senator Scherer, did you have a point?
I just wanted to say that Chief Justice Freeman did clarify that it is not against the Constitution. It's timeline to revote today. And I forgot the other thing that I was going to say. So I yield.
Senator Burge.
I echo what Chief Justice Freeman said and Senator Scherer said as well. I don't believe it's a violation of the Constitution. I would encourage that we label it as a amendment to our original vote, as a way to decipher that we're not necessarily re-voting, but we're just amending our vote. And I forget the other thing I was going to say, so
And I just do want to note that we have members of the judicial branch here. If you're citing violations of the Constitution, I recommend yielding to them just specifically for efficiency's sake in this discussion. I will yield to elections manager Blanco.
The section of the Constitution that Chief Justice Freeman cited was section 802E number 2. It's all one sentence, and it reads, all candidates for Speaker of the Senate must be presented by the elections manager at the Senate session during the first week of campaigning in chamber to the Senate and receive an individual vote of confidence for their candidacy by 1/3 vote. That is up for interpretation. It's all one sentence. I interpret it as an elections manager, as all of these things need to happen all at the same time because it's all in one sentence. And that's my interpretation. And that is why I am claiming that we would be in violation of the Constitution. Thank you. I yield.
Are there any more points of discussion?
Point of information, what was that section in the Constitution one more time? I'm so sorry.
Article 8, section 802, it's labeled candidates. It's letter E, number 2. If you go up into the search bar at the top right-hand corner and just type in the word vote of confidence and press enter, it should show up.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Are there any more points of discussion?
Quick point. And in no way is this a target at anybody, but that's two differing opinions. One from a chief justice and one from the elections manager. I'm not saying one is better than another. I mean, obviously, one was a former justice. So, but I would kind of.
We were just looking. Sorry, we were just looking at the direct wording in the Constitution right there. It wasn't an opinion stated.
Sorry.
Point of information, that was not an opinion in any way, shape, or form. It was just letting y'all know you have options. Gemma's was more of like her interpretation because she can do that because she's not in the judicial branch. I cannot. Not my opinion. She is in the judicial branch. I'm sorry. She just is not.
I understood. And my error.
Do you have any other points, Senator Piper?
I think there is a pathway to getting through it. As far as a pause, I think that's the pause.
Okay. Are there any more points of discussion? Seeing none.
You have to wait until Senate comes back to 2/3, I guess. Or we have to.
Chair Silverheart.
A motion to bring Senate back into fruition.
There's been a recommendation to bring Senate back as a whole. This requires a 2/3 vote. And we can do this as a placard vote. So all for moving back into regular Senate session, please raise your placard.
Wait, can you explain the vote again?
Yes, this vote would move us back into Senate as a whole, back to our agenda, out of committee as a whole.
Do we not need to present a report though?
Sorry?
Do we not need to present a report saying what we discussed, what we came up to?
In committee as a whole, right now, we are still in, we will move back into discussion and
Yes, but
debate.
once we move back to Senate, we'll have to present a report to Senate saying this is what we decided, right?
Yeah.
And do we have something that we decided?
No. Short answer. Cherry.
Is it my turn to like speak?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been running back and forth and trying to converse about all of the things. And I have questions that include informal votes because I just want to get a judge of everyone, right? So the way that I'm told that the votes were laid out was, some people wrote yes or no next to names. Some people put a tick or no tick next to names. It is our decision as the Senate if we would like to consider no tick as an abstention or as a no. And then in that case, if we were to decide that no tick was an abstention, then I would make I don't know what the word is. Then I would be comfortable going off of the, hear me out all the way through the sentence, is going to sound bad at the beginning, the memory of the two people who counted the votes, and remembering if there was a no vote for Senator Welch, Chair Welch, my apologies. If we decide that then that no tick equals an abstention, then that means that Chair Welch would have gotten all yes votes and some abstentions. At that point, we can go off of the 15 yes votes as a total number of votes that were submitted, at which point Senator Correa got 5 votes, and that gives confidence there. Does anybody have any questions on what I'm saying? It's a lot of muddy water, and there are problems on all ends of every discussion we've had, but that's my suggestion at the moment.
Senator Correa.
One thing I'd like to say is we could do this. We could present a report saying that we do accept what parliamentarian Clark mentioned last Senate session, that it was 5 out of 15 votes, because that was mentioned. We could we could present a report that the committee of the whole accepts that it was 5 out of 15, and then have a vote on if we accept that motion or not. And if we do accept that motion, we don't have to discuss and debate because all 3 candidates over there, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, so all 3 candidates over there get the vote of confidence. We could do that unless somebody opposes it.
Are there any more points of discussion? Yeah. Senator Waller.
Can we take a vote for those in favor of Chair Eathie's idea?
One second on that. Senator Carcel Perez.
I feel like we would, and just love to hear your idea more, but it's just a lot of sauce. And I feel like it would have to be laid out a lot more, because I feel like that also brings into question, like, who are we to judge a tick as an abstention or not? So I just urge all of you to also think on that.
Yeah, I think it's hard just because every area we've explored so far has a lot of gray area and a lot of interpretation that it's not necessarily for right now. Senator Williams.
According with the tick or no tick thing, if my memory serves me, if we were going to abstain, we said in the space, if you're going to abstain, write the word abstain. Even if you spelled it wrong, we said write that. It may just be me that remembers that, but that might be a helpful thing for the whole tick or no tick idea.
Yeah, so specifically, I said that if you're going to abstain, to write the word, like at least write part of it, write AB, just so that that's signaled as abstention. But that's not to say that necessarily every single vote had that. Even if that's what was said. Senator Silver, or Chair Silver.
In that case, instructions were laid out. So if they did not have a tick mark and they did not have the word like abstain, then it was a vote for no.
Fair enough.
Because it should be an invalid vote, not a vote for no.
Why should it be invalid?
Because they didn't follow the regulations that I mentioned.
What was the regulation as to say no?
There were none. It said
exactly. So there was a regulation for yes, there was a regulation for abstain. Anything else should be counted as a no.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
And I feel like now that I know that, there were instructions. So we do have the ballots, correct?
We don't have the ballots themselves. Usually with secret ballots, they're discarded after meetings. So
how do we have a recollection of each ballot and whether or not it said
there was a count for the amount of members that were in the room during the vote. And we have like on the Zoom, we've gone through and counted the amount of people that were sitting in chairs at the time the ballots were handed out and when they were collected. So we know exactly how many people were in the room. Yeah, does that make it more clear?
But why are we talking about ticks if we don't have the ballots?
Because
Is that where the questioning came from?
sort of. So I'm talking about this because I am willing to go based on the memory of the counters on just if they, not the numbers, just if they happened to see a no vote or a lack of tick, and they did remember seeing a lack of tick, but not a no. And so it comes down to, do we decide a lack of tick equals no? At which point, because they saw no no's, there, if we were to decide that lack of tick equals abstention, then we could go off of the fact that Chair Welch got all yeses. It's muddled and really complicated, but if we're deciding that the situation was you have to write and abstain, I think that the point is mute.
Speaker Pro Tem Baum.
So I'm hoping for a potential solution to this, but again, we had 17 paper ballots present in the chamber. We had 3 Zoom votes, and luckily enough, the candidates that, well, the senators here that said that they abstained was 3. So if we grab that 17 plus 3 is a total of 20, but since there was abstain in general and there was no like single abstain for a single candidate in any person's ballots, so that would bring the total to 17. So we grab the threshold, the 1/3 threshold of that, which would be 5.66. We do have all the yays from last Senate session's minutes. So that would mean that candidate Welch had 15, candidate DeSalvo had 12, if not correct, and candidate Correa had 5. And seeing a hand, I would like to yield to Elections Manager Blanco.
Thank you, Pro Tempore. We discussed in our emergency meeting with Senate leadership that I was a part of or was privy to, that some senators were confused about what the vote of confidence was, and that some senators may have submitted ballots where they only voted for one candidate, not that they submitted a vote of confidence for each candidate. So in that regard, it is a possibility that someone mistook what the vote of confidence was and voted for candidate A and left it blank for candidate B and C. And with the logic that y'all are all going with, that would count as a no vote, even though the senator is misinformed about what the vote of confidence is.
Yeah.
Again, very messy situation. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that kind of brings us back to that there's a lot of gray area in every single direction here. Chair Silverheart.
If there was confusion regarding voting, then it doesn't make sense that we would not do a recount or revote and have all the candidates present again with the knowledge of what a vote of confidence is and how people should be voting.
Yeah.
Because even if we had the ballots, it still wouldn't be valid because people didn't understand the vote.
Yeah.
According to what Elections Manager Boyenko just said. So it seems like the only reasonable option is to have the candidates represent, we revote, and we move on. And we probably could have done that in the amount of time we've been discussing. So I would like to ask for a vote. Can we do a re-presentation of the 3 candidates and a revote, knowing what a vote of confidence is and how we're supposed to vote?
Point of information, how does that work with, I don't, okay, never mind, I was thinking.
Because according to the Constitution, they were presented.
Yeah. Okay, so there has been a call for vote. We can use a placard vote for this to have candidates represent and have a total revote.
of confidence on these candidates. If we could do a placard vote for this, Parliamentarian Clerk, do you want to add something?
Yes, and I know it kind of disrupts the whole momentum of things, but I would actually entertain, before we hold a vote on this, a 5 to 10 minute recess, just to discuss with the elections manager and the Chief Justice about the potential for appeals, and to check with the candidates to make sure that they are comfortable presenting if we do decide to pass and move on to an actual revote. So with that, I motion to move into a 10-minute recess.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion is adopted. We'll meet back here in about 10 minutes, about 8:50.
Yeah.
Legislation out of this judicial office.
Yeah, judicial.
Okay. I want to for the weekend, just do it next
If
week.
all the speaker of the Senate candidates can meet in the judicial office, that would be great.
Whatever the hell.
We did not be the senators all confused about the vote, because I believe there is time that you can just ask, if you're confused, you can ask what is the exact time.
Yeah, I mean, y'all said that last week, like, if you're confused, please ask.
So therefore, then it would be the senator's fault, and therefore the revote would really be valid.
You're good. You want to hug? Come on, man, bring it in. Bring it in. You're doing great.
I love it.
Oh,
Yeah,
this is tough.
it's giving you the-
I've never read it. Especially.
That's what I tried.
Where did everybody go?
Ariane, where did everybody go? I thought we were supposed to be somebody.
Jackson?
What?
I don't have it. I can just know which ones I have.
Wait, for like a vice chair.
I
mean, like, it's technically biased, but also like you're paid to be there.
Sorry.
I'm gonna use that.
Could have been like, I want to skip my.
Honestly, I should have.
I will say. You don't have to make a lot of mistakes. Neither do you do. It's fine.
Could Parliamentarian Clark
Yes.
and candidate Correa please report to the judicial office? Thank you very much.
Oh, beautiful.
What up? Yeah, Well, I tried to actually. You looked over and I said I looked away real quick.
Oh, dang.
Welcome to the Senate. And then.
Oh, I mean, those are, I think that includes it. This is the whole. And I get what? When you
So. Was he asking for how many total they are?
He asked for how many senators were here.
Oh.
I think it is best if one just like, it was possible. And then the main fact is some people were saying that.
Yeah.
I know, it was like we were getting stuff like that. And now we're like, oh.
No.
Yeah.
From capital. But you don't.
Oh, okay. I think that must be Kyle when it's broke everyone. So they're not really the same.
I know.
I'm glad that's not here.
I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh, that would keep that one. I'm working on the electricity road, and it's just.
If there's confusion, between the senators and the vote should be.
Do you want to read this presentation letter?
That's my interpretation.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because.
You also have the best.
The abstentions.
No, none of this, because they're at the-
Yeah.
This is resident, but that was just him.
Due to the vote.
Oh, no, that's my picture.
So like what Jen was saying was, since there were senators confused about the procedure and how to vote in general, then it can be the reason they should revote. But in my view, it's the senator's fault if they don't understand that, because it is explained in the entirety of the voting process is explained before the vote is cast. And then afterwards, they even ask you before the vote is cast if you have confusion about what was just explained and if you want certain things explained. So that would then imply that it's the senator's fault if they don't understand. And
Oh, yeah.
in other words, if they're confused, if there are some, like, they shouldn't be confused because they have to ask questions and everything afterwards.
We can just come back next week.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I know.
Oh, boy. Well, we can look at that, right? We gotta look at everyone else in this meeting.
Yeah.
Sammy.
More stuff for your Is it like Senate officer work or is it school work? Can you not run again? It's just like your hobby.
And everyone's like, no.
Are you leaving Senate?
And we're so rules and then they and then before I got to speak, they went to intermission. And then it was 15 minutes of silence. And then I called Charlie and then I called Sammy. And then the rest of
Right, must have bothered me. Yeah.
And I wasn't there, but also I'm in politics, but like I don't want to be in politics. Like, this stuff is so stupid. The two businesses that happened was that everyone called out the other for two incorrect. Yeah, that's not the speaker's job.
You said it, what do you want?
Yeah, that's just. Yeah.
Bro, I'm not gonna ask that question. No, what do you want?
Oh, I don't get that.
Well, we're really
I know.
I remember that conversation. I remember
I
that
bring up the
conversation.
Benton every day.
I'm like,
Unless
no.
this is your fault.
I literally remember the conversation. Because we were all like, and then
I know, I saw it.
okay, so we had our break at like 7:30 or 7:40, and it's not. That's like rude. But that's not how I have done.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm saying. I think it was any minute after 8:30 goes on to your clock.
Yeah.
Which kind of insinuates that after 8:30.
Yeah, and
This
that's-
hour and not.
Um,
So that's why a lot of people get up and leave right That's how I know I'm gonna. But I also like want to be able to, since I'm on this, like I want to hear all of this. Is there a time limit for?
Hey.
But it says you have to
Which, by the way,
submit it 3 hours in advance of the So maybe we already have 2. Yeah, that's why I was like, I'm sorry. I'm just being completely honest with you. That's fine. More chance of it causing more problems. In a good way. In a good way. Actually, yeah, I have no opinion. Especially not in this office.
I believe.
None of us understand, so like that's valid, especially for some time. So yeah, you're good. You can just vibe up there and then. Honestly, I'm really glad they set up these. At the time, I was like trying to procedure and stuff. Rather than just like trust people in charge.
I'm gonna stretch my legs.
But they're sent to the entire student population.
How much time was there left on?
Do
you know how much time is left on our break?
It's definitely 10 minutes.
I figured not, but I don't.
I'm pretty frustrated, so we really want to talk to them.
I mean, valid.
All right, if everyone can make their way back to their seats.
Charlie, your walker's over.
Yes.
Sammy, I wish you were over here so we could just like between the three of us.
Maybe someday. I'm too comfortable over here.
Let us see. I'm not late. Are they gonna announce what you all talked about?
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, like we have reached a general consensus. There's a decision that's been made. I'm waiting for them to, they had to re-explain it a second time. So, but as soon as I see them come this way, we'll go back in.
Sammy, pull up your list of questions. Pull up your list of questions.
He's still the neatest. Yeah, if you don't want that, I'll totally take that. Yeah.
I don't, I hope I did. It's we're starting. Oh my God.
This is the last thing.
That's valid, but it's still, it took 2 hours, and I will not be yielding.
1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be done. All right. Kevin.
Here is the plan. We met with the candidates in the judicial branches, Senate leadership, and we determined. I'm sorry.
Sorry, point of information, parliamentarian clerk. I can't hear you on the Zoom.
Oh, my apologies.
Like going in.
Let's see.
I think there's a microphone that's being covered because I keep hearing it.
I think that maybe possibly just move your microphone up onto there, sure. Kevin. There we go.
Okay. Is that okay now, Chair Ritter?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
I'll just go ahead and restate that Senate leadership and judicial and the candidates all met. We feel like this is the best way, or not we as a totality, but I think we came to a consensus that this is the best way moving forward, acknowledging that any way of moving forward would have some risk for an appeal. and possibly question or undermine the integrity of the elections. Given that, we believe that we should hold a revote. And so, with y'all's acceptance, given 2/3 to come out of the committee of the whole and accept this report, I would rescind my motion and then make, I guess, an additional motion or actually, you know what? No, my primary motion would have worked, but to amend the minutes, we would revote. All candidates would be represented to y'all, and everyone here who's a senator would have the opportunity to vote. We would emphasize the guidelines. We would emphasize the definitions of what a vote of confidence is. We would follow all the proper protocol and procedures. And then once we make that vote, it would be reflected in last week's minutes. Yeah. And then from there, we would just move forward and see what happens. I yield.
Great. So you rescinded your motion, correct?
No. I would actually motion to move to previous question and see if we have a 2/3 majority that's in favor of this option.
There has been a motion to move to previous question. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion is adopted. We will now hold a vote on whether to move back into session as a whole. We can use this as a placard vote. Please raise your placards if you would like to move out of committee as a whole.
Yep.
All against?
No.
Yep. Great. We will now. That is a 2/3 majority, so we will now move back into regular session. So I believe where we're at now, parliamentary clerk.
Okay. Given that my motion was to amend the minutes from the March 23rd session, that further amendment will be to have a revote for the elections manager to represent all the candidates. We will conduct it in the same manner that we did last week in terms of time, in terms of time allotment for question and debate and discussion and debate, and then we would move back into a vote. I'll yield to elections manager Puhenko if.
The friendly amendment that I cannot make because I'm not a senator, but food for thought, doing a roll call vote so that the number of senators in the space is reflective of the total number of votes you'll have in your meeting.
That amendment is accepted. We will hold a roll call vote before we go into our secret ballot vote. How does that sound? Okay. Yes. I yield.
Point of information, is this a vote going to be to accept the report from the committee of the whole?
Yes, as well, so we have to give that report now.
Okay.
So, yeah. Chair Athey.
Motion to use the report given in the committee as the committee report.
Yes.
Seconded.
All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion is adopted. So now we will move into a vote on. We already accepted that vote. Sorry. Okay, so now we will move on with the presentation of the candidates and Charity.
Point of order, just because we are really insisting on being extremely specific today, we did never vote to decide to amend the minutes, and so that could be the roll call vote to get all those, but that vote definitely needs to happen.
Yes. So is there a second to this amendment?
Seconded.
All for?
Aye.
Or
Part
yes.
of the commission roll call.
Yes, we'll be using a roll call vote. When your name is called, please raise your placard and signify your vote. Charity?
Yes.
Senator Bildo? Senator Brown? Senator Burge? Senator Casado Perez,
Yes.
Senator Correa,
Aye.
Senator Epperson,
Aye.
Senator May,
Yes.
Chair Morgan,
Yes.
Senator Python,
Yes.
Yeah.
Chair Ritter,
Yes.
Senator Sandoval's not here. Senator Shepherd. Aye. Senator Scher, not here. Senator Chair Silverheart,
Yes.
Senator Thielen,
Yes.
Officer Torres Doxey,
Yes.
Senator Trout. Aye. Chair Welch.
Yes.
Senator Waller. Aye. Senator Livingston,
Yes.
Senator Sanchez,
Yes.
Senator Wynn,
Yes.
Senator Renscher.
Aye.
And
Samantha Bildo. Senator Bildo.
I'm not seeing anything.
This has passed unanimously. I just want to say before we move into this presentation and everything, this will be the last thing we do tonight. Everything else will be tabled till next week. So if y'all are able to stick around, that would be amazing, especially since we just counted. With that, Elections Manager Blanco, you may come up.
Yeah.
Hi, folks. Thanks again, and thank you for bearing with me, and thank you for working through this with us. I really appreciate it. So, as per the Constitution, I need to present the 3 candidates. So if I have the candidates come on up and just stand up here in a line for me. We are going to move into a vote of confidence. A vote of confidence, as the Elections Committee has interpreted it and has interpreted it in years past, is that it is Senate's stamp of approval for these candidates to continue their campaigns for Speaker of the Senate. And Senate typically, and in the past, and I would argue per the Constitution, votes on confidence, that they have confidence that the candidates for Speaker of the Senate meet of a GPA at 2.25, which they all do. That was something that was checked by our advisors for the elections committees. I do not know the numbers of their GPAs. I ask you all not to ask the candidates to disclose a GPA. They do all meet that threshold. Candidates also need to be in good standing with the university. Again, we had an advisor check good standing, and all 3 candidates meet that threshold as well. There's also a section of the Constitution that says one is only eligible for candidacy of Speaker of the Senate if they have been a member of an organization that uses parliamentary procedure as their official meeting format and/or can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they possess adequate knowledge of parliamentary procedure to manage the Senate. Those are the parameters that the vote of confidence is on. Senators will vote on each candidate individually. We'll go down candidate A and decide whether, yes, you have confidence that they have 1 year of membership in an organization with parliamentary procedure and or possess adequate knowledge of parliamentary procedure, or no, that you do not have confidence or you abstain. And then we move on to candidate B, and then again for candidate C. We are not voting for your favorite candidate. You can do that Monday through Wednesday on RamWeb. It opens at 8 a.m. on Monday, closes on 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Shout But as we move forward, each candidate will present themselves. The other 2 candidates will sit outside, and we'll kind of rotate from there. It's up to Senate leadership whether they'd like to do a vote after each candidate, or whether they'd like to do 3 votes consecutively after all 3 candidates.
Yeah.
Whichever parliamentary procedure is.
Thank you, Elections Manager Blanco. The way that we have the ballot set up currently is that it is 1 sheet of paper for all 3 candidates. And so it's not individual rounds. It is 1 round of voting to provide every senator the time to vote on each 3 of the candidates. We can also present this ballot up to the screen too if you all have any clarifications, but that is going to be the way that we're going to be conducting it today.
And then my last piece is that none of these candidates were prepped to represent today, so please give grace when they are presenting and maybe be a little lenient on the dress code. You've been lenient with me, so I hope you could be lenient with everyone else. Although Nick's got some really cool cowboy boots on. Okay. So we'll go in reverse alphabetical order like we did last time, because our candidates go in alphabetical order for everything else. So first up is Speaker of the Senate candidate Evan Welch, and the other 2 candidates.
It's not a part of the information. Could I get the number of voting senators right now, voting members in this chamber? Just in case. That we all here.
There are 21 present voting members of the Senate right now.
I'm just going to pick out my phone.
I'm gonna get my laptop.
Okay.
Evan, do you want to use this?
Sure.
It's not on yet.
Will you hold off until they get out?
Yes.
Okay.
You said there were 20,
21.
including treasurer leaving.
Who's Jesus?
Oh, shoot, never mind. That wasn't me.
And then we should probably just go for roll call vote before we vote again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's 21 roll call. Count ballots received. So
yes,
that was minus. Right. So that's assuming everyone votes.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So we can just hold a roll call right. We go into.
Yeah. And then we would also just base it off the total number of ballots received as well. No matter what, we don't calculate the number of people there here.
Evan, you can go
calculate the
ahead.
number that gave us.
Okay, hello everyone, I'm Evan Welch, my brother reading his. I'm running for Speaker of the Senate. And this is basically preparing me very well for the alumni that's coming up, so extra practice for that because first can't take us a while when we get to that. And so my familiarity with procedure is I have been ASCSU for 2 years, basically it's really been 1.5 years, let's just say 2 years, sounds nicer. And as I've been in many different parts of SFRB, I've been an associate senator, I've been a senator, and I've been a vice chair and a chair. So with that experience, I have been able to know how to do Robert's Rules of Order and other parliamentary procedures. If you ask me like any things like, I'm trying to think about like, I probably won't do great because it's 9:30 at night, but I do know them and I am well versed in those procedures. And that's everything. Now I'm opening up the questions.
Are there any questions for the candidate? Seeing none, great job. Will you bring in Senator DeSalvo, or yes. Speaker of the Senate candidate DeSalvo?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Do we even meet quorum with this number?
I don't know. We don't have a call for quorum.
I kind of want to call for quorum because if we're really here to like, are you sure? Yeah. Okay. We have 19.
Yeah, and there's somebody standing outside up here.
Okay.
They just aren't present.
Still rushing there.
Yeah.
Can you actually just make one more announcement for all senators to come back for or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, will all senators please come back to the floor? If there are any senators outside of the room, will all senators please come back to the floor? All right, Speaker of the Senate candidate DeSalvo, you can present.
Am I using this mic or?
You can use the handheld one or whichever one's comfortable.
Okay. I'm gonna try to make this as brief as possible. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick DeSalvo. I'm a candidate for Speaker of the Senate. Background on me, I ran for office at age 17, became the youngest person in state history to ever do so. I currently serve on BSOF right now, and I'm really proud of some of the work we've done there. I'm looking to get involved, and I think I could make some real positive impact in the role of speakers of the Senate.
Are there any questions for the candidate? Seeing none, thank you. Will you bring in Speaker of the Senate candidate Correa?
Hello everyone, my name is Ritik Garga. I also go by Rick. If it makes it easier, I use the he, series of pronouns, and I'm gonna try and keep it short, I guess. Yeah, I'm kind of nervous right now. Excuse me, because of all the commotion. But the reason I decided to run for speaker is because I want some change within the space. I want us to be more accountable to students. I want more senators to show up, especially from STPS offices. And just like my last presentation, as I said, we do not have senators from the Women and Gender Advocacy Center, which is something I really care about. We need more women voices in this space. And I believe as Speaker of the Senate, I would encourage more STPS office participation. I would also encourage more college councils to send senators that the Constitution says that every college, based on the number of students enrolled, get to send senators. And I want every college to send senators so that the space is filled. And as I said, accountability as one of my pet projects. So that I also want I want the gallery to be full. I want to ensure that students participate, because if they don't participate, there's no point of us being here unless there's student participation involved. I would also like to be on the ballot this time, because if we fail to get the 10% vote, then all the changes that we made, Lex-based changes that we made would not get ratified. I also have a Lex coming up next Senate session that I would like to be ratified if the Senate approves, which I did submit today, which is why I would like to be in this position to make that change that I deserve. I'm going to end it here. Any questions, please? Thank you.
Are there any questions for the candidate? Seeing none, thank you. You may step outside those doors.
I would also appreciate if you all voted based on what the Constitution expects of us to do. Thank you so much.
We will now enter. We will now enter discussion and debate on all three candidates, starting with the first raised placard. Senator Burge.
Move to previous question.
There's been a motion to move to previous question. Is there a second?
Second.
All for?
Aye.
All against?
I mean, like, I can't vote on this, so.
Do you have a point of order?
No, just a point of information, I suppose, but go ahead and make the vote.
We're going to use this as a roll call vote to again ensure that we have the number of senators and voting members available during the vote. We're going to do a roll call on the motion to move to previous question. Yeah. Will the Speaker pro tempore please call the roll?
No, we're missing two.
Right now, this is the amount of members reflected in the space. And so we're going to carry on with these members here. So we're going to take roll on the motion to move to previous question.
Chair Athey. Senator Bildo,
Aye.
Senator Burge,
Aye.
Senator Gato Perez. Senator Correa is not here. Candidate.
Sorry.
Senator Epperson,
Aye.
Senator May,
Aye.
Chair Morgan,
Aye.
Senator Python,
Aye.
Chair Ritter,
Aye.
Senator Shepherd. Aye. Chair Silverheart.
Yeah, here.
Senator Beadham.
Aye.
Officer Torres Doxy. Aye. Senator Trout. Aye. Chair Welch. Not here. Candidates. Senator Weiler. Aye. Senator Williamson.
Abstain.
Okay.
Okay, I'm here, great.
Senator Sanchez.
Aye.
Senator Wynn. Aye. Senator Venture.
Aye.
Is there any chair or senator I did not call?
RWAC is here.
Thank you.
Could we get Senator Python, any chance?
Yeah, we got it.
No? Okay.
All good. All right, we will now enter a vote. This will be a secret ballot vote on all three of the candidates. Parliamentarian clerk.
I just kind of wanted to outline really quick how this process is going to go. For everyone who's here in person that's a senator, you will receive a ballot deciding on all three candidates whether you have confidence in them. So yay means right that you have confidence in them. Nay, no confidence. Abstention means that your vote will not be reflected in the count total. It will not be calculated into the results. For those that are attending to us on Zoom, I have a Google form for y'all. I'm going to private message y'all with that Google form. Your information will not be shared, and those responses will be deleted after Senate adjourns and we have our vote count. And then a point of clarification or information, if I might. Yeah, okay. So Senate leadership did decide that Senate or candidate Correa's ad hominem statement back in January was considered germane and acceptable, and y'all considering their eligibility for running for office. I just also wanted to briefly pull up the 51st Senate bylaws before anything. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that ad hominem policy is codified within our bylaws. And then just here in Rule 4 to also consider the consequences that we have for senators in the space who have made ad hominem statements in the past. And that's, you know, the worst consequence, I guess, is just to be removed from the chamber. And so I just wanted y'all to consider that. With that, I yield.
I move for a 5-minute recess while the voting is counted.
There's been a motion for a 5-minute recess. Is there a second?
Second.
All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion is adopted. We will be back in
Please come back at 9:33.
I started running and I thought I literally fell in bed. I'm like, sorry, I'm funny.
You running?
Yeah.
No one. Restoration, but they're doing the
I was like, this was I was like, I'm staying. I thought this must be a secret. You said it. You were just like, no, I'm staying. I didn't hear it. You don't get to know that I'm here.
I guess not.
No.
I need something. Yeah. You know, I
mean, it's not a time.
we would have just done that at the beginning. We would.
You know, don't want to talk about the same. I am happy to stay here late.
Yeah.
But not for one. And not one of
apparently there's two between she said she was about to yeah. She didn't tell me what. It was like the end of the
so do I want to just say the
not, but she's like, when we need more time. It's like, oh, I don't know how we need.
Also, like, I've written enough things that this person fucking mentioned. I'm not kidding. I heard at least two, if not three.
That was like at least a week ago.
I'm just, they don't know what I was doing.
Yeah, but that's you did. You like fucking sass. I don't like sass.
We don't virtual.
You're not gonna get a date for skipping. Honestly, same. My 1 o'clock class is right when I get here. It's time to
if I did it, I would do this on
either or just like put it in my headphones and put my iPhone. It's fine. If I miss something important, Jackson will I mean, at this point, especially because there's something at 8. That was her like bad.
Yeah.
The entire industry was like, excuse me.
What are you doing?
What do you think
Get
you
back
are?
in your lane. Oh my gosh. I'm good at this. That sounds horrid. Horrid. She'll do it.
Sam voted? Yeah. Sam voted, right? So you just do it. You got it.
I think my dog a sour nature dog.
Oh my god, wait.
I literally heard the same thing. I did a sour My father weeping, my mother wailing, my sister crying, our maid wringing her hand. Nope, our maid wailing, cat wringing her hand, and did not this cold-hearted clerk shed one tear. Hey, I'll show you the man that this shoe is my father. No, that's not right. This shoe is my father. No, this shoe is my mother. Ah, yes, it has the worser soul. This left shoe with the hole in it is my mother. This right shoe is my father. This stick is my sister. See how slender and still she is. This hat is my. What is Lace Law's one? This hat is man, our maid, and I am the dog. No, the dog is himself. No, the dog is himself, and I am the dog. No matter. Now I come to my father. I did not say a word. I guess my mother. Now I do my mother. Mark how she something about a wiggleness. I kiss my father. Well, he replied, now come I to my mother. Oh, that she could speak like a woodwoman. Well, I kiss her. Why, there 'tis. My mother's breath up and down. Now come I to my sister. Mark the moan she makes. Now the dog all while sheds not a tear, nor says a word.
It's so funny. I literally have done that monologue.
I have to do a video of it tonight. Wow. And I only have a half an hour. Oh, you did pretty good.
I can bullshit it. I've been in this shit. Like I know it, but it's like I color coded my section. But yeah, I like sit around and I like throw my shoe around and I have a hat that this person, this person. I'm a little bit insane, but like I don't even
That's the character.
Yeah.
I'd say how.
I'd say.
So walking past here, I saw.
Well, some of this, please make their way back to the chairs for the beginning.
Does their son get excluded? That's correct. So they're saying it's difference. So, okay, like 19 minus 2, 17. Equals 17. So 19 minus 1 equals 18. That's good enough. No, 19 minus 6, right? No. Yeah, stop saying it's 15. Okay.
The parliamentary clerk, please announce the results of the vote.
Absolutely. During our last roll call, we had 19 senators present. We had also received 19 ballots. And so no one there is unaccounted for. In terms of the votes of confidence, for candidate Welch, he has received a vote of 17 to 0 to 2. He passes the vote of confidence. For candidate DeSalvo, he has received a vote of 15 to 3 to 1. This candidate passes the vote of confidence. For candidate Correa, they have received a vote of 9 to 6 to 4. This candidate passes the vote of confidence.
Thank you. Will the elections manager please bring in all 3 candidates?
Sure. Candidate Welch, you have received a 17 to 0 to 2 vote of the Senate and have passed your vote of confidence. Candidate DeSalvo, you have received a vote of 15 to 3 to 1, passing your vote of confidence. Candidate Correa, you have received a vote of 9 to 6 to 4, passing your vote of confidence. Congratulations to all the candidates.
Congratulations, candidates. Carrie.
I would like to make the argument that because there's only 2 pieces of legislation left on the floor because one of them got pulled for the evening, and they're particularly contentious ones, that we just finish because we're ending at 8 o'clock next week, and I guarantee you then we'll just finish through committee, and then we'll have even more things on our plate to be done by 8 o'clock next week. So I recognize that it's really frustrating when we've been here, and it's now 9:30, that we have 2 more things to do, but I think that it would be a good idea just to finish.
A quick point of order, Chair Athey. In regards to Bill 5112, the author is not present for that bill, or actually, are you not?
I was notified that it got pulled, but
I was just about to say that Director Walser just left because he was under the impression that his bill was not going to be heard tonight.
I do have also Brenton.
Please raise your placard. Senator Waller.
Apologies. Yeah, Brenton was texting and he said he joined virtually on Zoom because he just got home.
So no formal pulling of this piece of legislation has been mentioned to me. So this legislation is still on the floor as far as I know. There has been a motion to continue, or not really a motion to continue on. There's just been a point to continue on. As the chair, I would entertain a motion to adjourn because this has been an extremely long session. I know we have other business to do, but I trust that we can get this business done other times. And this has been an extremely long session. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There's been a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second.
All for?
Aye.
All against?
Nay.
I'm going to call division on this one. We'll use a placard vote. All for adjourning this meeting?
Two on Zoom.
Two on Zoom. Thank you.
Three on Zoom.
All against?
None. You're kidding. You have to do
We have reached a tie. As the Speaker of the Senate, I hold the tie-breaking vote, and I will.
Information. Did you get my vote?
Murray and Ryan.
Chair Morgan, what's your vote?
I vote to adjourn.
Yes, we counted 3 votes to adjourn in the Zoom chat from Chair Morgan, from Chair Ritter, and from Senator Python. Is that correct? Is that everybody's votes?
Yep.
Okay, that was accounted for in the original vote, and so we still have a tie.
Senator Burge.
I move to add the fight song to the agenda.
We can't add this as we are in voting on a motion already. Advisor Diodon.
Just one thing to contemplate, I want to say this before the vote, is the more that you backlog things now, just think of how much later and closer to finals meetings can go. And sorry, this is now kind of falls upon you, Jackson, or Speaker Hunter, but just something to think as you're looking towards the future.
Yes. Everything considered, I'm going to hold the tie-breaking vote, and my vote is to adjourn this meeting. Thank you all so much for spending your time and creative thinking tonight. I will see you all next week.
Can someone please let that know that he's not presenting tonight? Sorry. We need to let that know.